Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, February 18th, 2026 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Scott Loigitz and I'm the Zoning Board Chair. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of the special meeting has been provided to a newspaper record. It's been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, the meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast to Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34, Verizon Channel 30. Transcript of this meeting is also being taken using video and audio, so we need all speakers to utilize one of the microphones in the room. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Ms. Sands, can you please call the roll of members?
Vice Chair Zahn?
Here.
Mr. Yuko is excused. Mr. Millay? Here. Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Curran is excused. Ms. Chifo?
Here.
Mr. Feskins?
Here.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Here.
Mr. Bell?
Here.
Chairman Loikitz?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Sands. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. Mr. Ball advises the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on these applications. Jessica Sands is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Board secretary works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, keeping our meeting minutes. Board secretary also does not vote. Also present tonight are our experts who are hired annually by the board to provide input. Tonight we have Marie Raffet from Collier's Engineering. Also present is Ed Snikes from Burgess Associates. He's our board planner. These experts are seated at the table to the right of the board, the public's left. They also do not vote. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but only a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Before we enter into executive session to vote on the application, you'll be advised of how many votes are required for approval. Each case will begin with the applicants or their attorney giving an overview of the application process to date and the variances that are required. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why these variances are needed. The board experts, then followed by the board members themselves, can ask questions to the applicant, their attorney, and their expert witnesses. Due to recent cases running excessively long, we strongly encourage applicants and their experts to give brief and concise testimony so we may get to as many cases as possible in a given evening. Once the board members and then the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Please be careful as how you phrase your questions. They should not be preceded with a statement about this case, but should be a direct question to the witness. Also, before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, provide your address. It's important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. The public hearing is then closed and we enter into executive session. This is where the board members discuss the case and then vote. You'll be able to listen into our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. I'm going to ask each applicant and or their attorney, if present, to come up and just give a brief synopsis of their anticipated testimony tonight, including the number of witnesses and whether or not they think they can finish the presentation within 30 minutes. So to start tonight, we have 71 Hillcrest Avenue.
James Weber of Alfonso and Weber, on behalf of the applicants. We have 3 witnesses, 45 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Weber. We'll talk to you soon. And can I get a representative from 32 Lenox, please? Hillary.
Good evening, Hillary Alls from Dempsey and Sheehan. We have 3 witnesses tonight, probably 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
All right, Mr. Weber, let's begin with you.
Thanks, Jarrett. James Weber of Alfonso and Weber on behalf of the applicants. This is a continuation of the hearing that was before the board. This is the second hearing, and this is with regard to the amendment of the plan consistent with what we believe would be a better plan. I remember Joe Steiner commenting one time that the Board of Adjustment just doesn't hear the applications, but makes the applications better. And I was thinking of him when I was going through this application. We're a little begrudging to have to come back, but I must admit it's a better application. The lot coverage has been eliminated entirely without the need for permeability. Building coverage, which was 3.3% over that permitted, has been cut in half, 1.4% over. The building, because the front porch was removed, has allowed the building to come forward on Hillcrest, still maintaining the same front yard setback of 37 feet. But what it also has done is that in the side yard off Bellevue, the main portion of the building is now 5 feet further away from the neighbor who's most closely affected by the application. As a result, through this process, we have a better application before the board. The variances now include a retaining wall in the front yard that's over 4 feet. That was always there. It just was noticed in the most recent review by the planning review, and we'll have Andrew Clark available to discuss that. I would ask that Andrew be called, and then we'll have Jarrett Kest, and then we have a professional planner, should the board have any questions of a planning nature.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
I acknowledge that I'm still under oath, or am I swearing in again?
Were you here at the last one?
I think I was.
I didn't have you noted. Mr. Weber, was he sworn at the
But-
last
I
one?
was pretty sure he would have been sworn in, but it doesn't hurt to do it
Let's
again.
Yeah.
do it just in case.
No
Do
harm.
you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And once again, you're appearing before us frequently. Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
No, I've got some updated continuing education from Surveyors Conference, but no change.
I imagine we'll accept him back once again.
Absolutely. Welcome
you.
back, Mr. Clark.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed.
So what I'd like to do is summarize the changes so we can understand what the differences are between the last presentation of this application and where we are now. As Mr. Weber indicated, there were some modifications to the house. One of the main points of discussion at the last meeting were the porch in the front, which was contributing significantly to the building coverage. You know, there was some discussion about that and whether it needed to be so big and what about the porch. So that was part of the reason that we went back to the drawing board, as it were. So in this latest version of the plan, what we have now, and I'm referring to my lot grading plan dated August 4th, 2025, and last revised January 27th, 2026. The porch, which had extended across the frontage, has now been modified, and you can see in the rendering that's up there as well, to a recessed porch, or more of a portico in terms of its size at the front, which allowed us to move the entire building 5 feet closer to the street while maintaining the 37-foot setback that we had previously proposed to the porch. That allows the main body of the back of the house, of course, to be 5 feet farther from the neighboring property, Lot 9. We have this covered porch in the back, which moved 2.5 feet farther from the line, so it's a little bit farther from the neighbor as well. The other modifications that have taken place are some narrowing and slight modification of the walks, and we had a connecting walk, if you recall, that came from the driveway to the front walk. That's been eliminated. So all of those contributions have brought us to a condition where we're below the permitted lot coverage. We're at 28.9%, where 30% are permitted. So we brought it down a bit below the maximum allowed. That's without taking any credit for permeable pavements, which have been discussed, and we discussed at the last hearing as well. That's just a simple computation at 100% coverage for those hard surfaces. One implication of doing this is that there's a slightly larger impact to the steep slopes of about 100 square feet. So we went from 1,250 square feet that were impacted on the previous plan to 1,350. That's owing primarily to the area right by the left side of the driveway where the body of the house slid 5 feet down. So we just impacted a little bit more of that steep slopes with the driveway since it's moved down as well. Mr. Weber indicated that there was a comment in the recent review from the planner about walls in the front yard area, so everything forward on the Bellevue side of the dwelling. There are two sections. One on the left side comes about a little less than halfway out, where the wall is between 5 and 5.5 feet instead of 4 feet. And there's another section in the back corner around behind the turnaround area. There's a small section. It's probably like about 12 feet in either direction at the corner, where the wall's 5 feet instead of 4 feet. The reason I wasn't aware that that was actually a variance. It seemed in the ordinance that that pertained primarily to fences, but be that as it may, these sections are higher than 4 feet. I think that they're best kept that way, mainly because what we're trying to do in both of these areas is maintain the two mature trees, one that's in this area here, the 16-inch, and the 24-inch that's on the other side. And the less you disturb the grade, the better in terms of maintaining mature trees. So maintaining the top of the wall elevation, which is very close to the existing grade, does that, versus altering the grade, affecting the grade changes, which might impact the tree, or making a second layer of wall in there, which would reduce some of the landscape area and open space that's there. So I think it's a minor difference. It wouldn't be anything discernible or notable. It's not impairing sight distance or the traveling public, which I think is the main area of concern in that part of the ordinance, is making sure that there's free sight for travelers. So I don't think it impacts that. I think it's a reasonable request given the conditions on site and what we're trying to accomplish with those walls. The stormwater management remains the same. I did fail to slightly adjust the amount of area that we're capturing. We're actually capturing a little bit less, but I didn't change the design, so effectively that means we have a slight over-design on the dry well. So I think that's, again, a benefit beyond the fundamental benefit of what we were presenting in the first place, which is multiples above what our actual increase in coverage is. So I think ultimately the dry well is a substantial benefit in this case. That summarizes the fundamental changes and the differences in the application, and I'd be happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Board experts, what questions do you have for this witness?
I don't think I have anything. I think you covered all of my questions and clarifications. So I'm
Great. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the criteria you put on the latest plan, you didn't indicate the floor area ratio, but it looks like that will comply.
Yes.
Okay. It
Yes.
seems like from before to after. I just want to confirm for the record.
Yes, in terms of the bulk, yes, we comply with everything except for the building coverage, which is owing entirely to the porch that's in the back.
Got it.
The one-story open porch that's, effectively, it could be a patio and comply, but it's very important to the applicant and the future occupants of the house that they really want to have that as one step down and usable versus having a landing and several steps down to a surface patio, which of course would put us in full compliance with building coverage, but Given its location and that it's really of no impact to anyone, and with our screening, not even to the nearest neighbor, it's an important aspect of the project. And so that slight overage where we're at 15.4% versus 14 is entirely contained within that porch area.
And then just to quickly summarize for the board, you have the the minimum front yard setback as far as the average in the neighborhood that you're asking relief from.
Right.
Also the front-facing garage, but it's facing Bellevue.
That's right. Those remain.
Well.
Those requests remain. That's correct.
And you touched on the steep slopes and the wall height, and that was the nature of the variances there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think you addressed all of our other questions. Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. The air conditioning units, do you know about those or
Oh, yeah.
where they will be?
I, again, failed to include those on the plan, but our discussion was to place them in this area where the walkway runs past the garage in there, so it's sort of recessed and behind the house. It's in a conforming location, be fully screened by virtue of the walls that are there and the landscaping above them.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Ed. Board members, what questions do you have for this witness?
Don? Just a little confused. Is there a variance required for a steep slope or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not on
Yeah, it's, we're disturbing about 1,350
Right.
square feet, where 1,000 is the threshold. We were disturbing 1,250 square feet, so
You went up 100.
we were asking for the variance, we still are, it's just slightly bigger.
Okay, I just didn't see it on the list of variances.
Okay.
The retaining wall in the front of the house, by the porch, what is the height of that one?
Yeah, that's 2 feet high.
2
It's-
feet, okay.
Yeah, it's more an aesthetic and management of a little bit of grade change in there and to provide some landscaping.
And then the 5-foot wall, I guess, that, you need to have a fence over it, or is that correct? Because over 4 feet?
That would be a building department requirement, yeah.
Yeah, typically the fall protection requirement depends upon how you're landscaping it. So for example, you have some thick landscaping, I'm not saying we do in this case, but it would be one or the other. If you had some thick landscaping and it wasn't a normal pedestrian route where you would have people typically on foot, if you have thick landscaping, that typically would satisfy that. Otherwise, you would need some fall protection. You know, a minor,
I mean, there's
Split rail
definitely,
or
I'm
a
sure
fence of
we'll
some
hear from
sort.
the landscaper. I see it on the plan, but I just not sure.
Mr.
what kind
Weber.
of- yeah.
No, I was just
Oh.
listening to
Yeah.
Vice Chair.
I just wasn't, I guess we'll hear more about the landscaping thereafter. But in the back, I'm just looking just trying to compare where you said it was over 5 feet, so I can,
It's right in this corner right here.
okay.
And then alongside the stairs.
Right, that was the other location, is
Right.
right by the stairs here.
And we have Jared Kest, who's going to be able to highlight those areas.
Okay. Thank you.
What other questions do we have for Mr. Clark?
Mr. Chairman, just.
Yeah, Don,
Just
go
so I'm trying to understand. You moved the house forward
Towards Hillcrest.
towards Hillcrest to
Yeah.
gain, why? Just to get a better buffer for the neighbor?
Yes. So since we reduced that porch area that was across the entire front at 5 feet deep, we just positioned the house at that same 37-foot setback, providing a little bit more room in the back to the neighbor.
But then when you moved the house forward, that created more of a disturbance for the steep slope.
100 square feet more, that's
But
correct.
If the house had stayed where it was, removed the porch, you would have still had to have the 1,200 square foot variance.
Correct, that's
They're
right.
still over
Yes.
either way.
Yeah, and unlike many of the steep slope applications that are before this board and that I've been involved in, we're not terracing and regrading at all. It's mainly in recognition of the fact that there will be some activity and disturbance in those areas. I find it's better to conservatively represent that so that once field operations commence, we don't end up in a stop work order and go back to the board and get the variance for steep slope disturbance when the contractors don't understand where the limits are.
Thank you.
What other questions? Seeing none? All right. What questions do we have from the public for this witness? Seeing none, Mr. Weber, your next witness, please.
I would ask that Jared Kest be called to the stand, be sworn in to give testimony in this matter.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Jarrett Kest, K-E-S-T.
Thank you, and you two have appeared before us relatively recently. Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
I think I took a couple classes too.
License still in good standing?
Yes.
I imagine we would like to accept you back once again.
We would. Welcome back, Mr. Kest. Please proceed.
Thank you.
If I can, Jared, before we go.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the exhibits that you're going to be sharing have not been provided to the board previously, and as a result, there will be approximately a dozen portrayals or perspectives. We can name them all at one, or do it as going along.
Yes, we'll mark the entire electronic presentation as A2.
So that's a older plan that you're looking at there.
And then the foam core board that's there, that's included in the electronic presentation?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Go ahead, Mr. Kest.
Okay.
Jared?
Great. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank Andrew for his very boring black and white drawing, and I can come with these very glowing green drawings. So we have a bunch of graphics here today, and our aim is to put together a convincing case that this is a beautiful home. Our team has collaborated for months, trying to get this exactly right from a zoning perspective, of course, and there's certain things we just can't avoid on this project, but also for our clients, the end user of the project being their parents, to be a family home next door to their family home, so it functions really well for everybody. So we have a number of diagrams and perspectives and a plan. Hopefully that tells the story. So as we've stated, we're here to design and construct a new single-family residence at 71 Hillcrest Avenue, compatible with the City of Summit's prevailing architectural styles and the character of the immediate neighborhood. So here is a view as looked at from the west. These are the front-facing garages. You'll see some of the items in here, the retaining walls and the stairs and the landscaping. So we're going to touch on the landscaping first, so that we can kind of paint the picture of the setting of the
Mr.
project.
Kest, sorry to interrupt. These were prepared by your team
Correct.
based on
So
the
these,
architectural plans
yeah, so
provided
this-
to you and your landscape plan combined?
that is what this is.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I can describe it a little bit better. So what you're seeing is a 3D model to scale based on the architectural plans prepared by Kim Tone, the site plan prepared by Andrew Clark, and the landscaping prepared by myself. Okay? And we'll get into, more specific info. I just wanted to kind of give you the overview of what this looks like in these photos first. So why don't we just get into the landscaping a little bit. Just to start, like we do on every project, I was able to meet with John Linson a long time ago on this project before anything was really even contemplated. And we got his blessing. His comments were pretty innocuous, I think, in the staff comments. And he supported everything we're doing here. And I think the main reason is that we're committed to using almost an entire native palette here. The only non-native plants we'll be using are boxwoods. And the purpose of the boxwoods, as you might imagine, is to create interest this time of year. I still feel that they're still the best option for doing that in Summit, especially with the boxwood blight being somewhat under control, at least on the projects we've been involved in. I think it adds nice structure, and it also supports all the native perennials, grasses, and so on the project. So statistically, we're removing 3 trees from the project, 2 of which are pretty damaged. 1 is a decent tree, but we're coming back with minimum of 8 trees on the project, all of which are native. So can kind of touch on the palette a little bit here. So I call it 71 Hillcrest natives because, well, that's what they are. We're committed to this being a beautiful native environment, one that attracts butterflies and hummingbirds and all the things we love. Smooth hydrangea, Amsonia, Rudbeckia, Agastache, Panicum, and so on and so forth. I think this will really complement what is on our client's house next door, because that's basically what we did there. And it's full of butterflies and hummingbirds, and plus from a stormwater management perspective, these plants tend to absorb more water runoff than, say, non-natives would. So moving through the tree palette, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with our projects, but we tend to plant larger trees than most. So these are representative of the size of the trees that would be planted when at time of planting. Okay, so we have some sugar maples and redbuds, dogwoods of different colors and varieties, witch hazel, and swamp white oak. So the picture on the right here is a swamp white oak. This was planted on Prospect Hill about 15 years ago by us. And this photo's taken about 6 years ago, right? So you can see this is a significant tree. Most of the trees in Summit that we love that are sprawling over on top of the houses that everyone's, in love with, including myself, are white oaks. But white oaks are not available in nursery stock. So the next best thing is the swamp white oak. So that's what we've been using for over a decade in Summit, and they're thriving here. And John Linson is in complete support of that, just to add to that. We are using some arborvitae. Also, the white pine isn't something we're adding, it's an existing white pine. So just to kind of give you the full picture of the plant palette here. So just to re-summarize, what we're asking for variance for a relief here. We have the neighborhood minimum front yard setback, front-facing garage, front yard retaining wall height, maximum steep slope disturbance, and maximum building coverage. So I'm just going to move quickly through this, just to hopefully illustrate, some of the challenges that we're facing here on a property that has some of these things, right? It's an undersized lot. This diagram here is describing the average front yard setback. So the blue, heavy blue line, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So the rectangle towards the top of the page is actually the building envelope that is per the zoning code, right? It's an unbuildable shape, right? There's no building that would ever fit in there. So that is the first challenge when Kim and Andrew and I were siting this house and deciding where should this go. That was the first challenge. So the orange represents the former home, right? That's the overlay. So this is a figure ground showing the former house in orange and the proposed in gray. So you can see the former home was far more non-conforming than the proposed home, right? It was very close to Bellevue. It's even closer. Sorry, my screen is not cooperating. So we're about 4 feet further back from Hillcrest than the previous home was. Moving on. So this picture illustrates that. Obviously, there's no dimensions and things like that on here. But you see it sits nice and comfortably on the site. There's a 2.5 foot or 2 foot retaining wall in front of the house, and it really just grades down to the site. So most of this front yard is not graded. You'll see the addition of the dogwoods and the existing white oak. There is a massive 38-inch, I believe, caliber white oak on the left side here that will be retained and protected during construction, but really creating a lush environment for the house. So moving on to the front entry garage. Showed you this picture a moment ago. As you can see, nestled in there to the left of the picture is an existing white oak that would be protected and also supports the wall height there, being a little taller, so we don't have to disturb the grade in that area.
One of the questions that has come up is the height of the retaining wall that's in the front of the building. And here we can see one of those retaining walls. What portion of that is over 4 feet?
So just zooming in, you see the stair opening right there? That's the point where it is, I think, 5 feet 3 inches tall. But then we intentionally, you'll see it grading down to almost zero as quickly as we can. Really, the only purpose of it is to retain the white oak that is nearby, right? So in that case, we wouldn't have to do any grading. And you can see, to answer one of the questions about fall protection, if there is not a direct pedestrian path near one of these falls, then typically, and again, it's up to the discretion of the building official at the time of construction, typically a guard is not required. So you can see the lush plantings, we have at least 8 feet of landscaping in that area that would prevent anyone from really getting near that. But of course, if the building inspector has a difference of opinion, compliance for sure. So here's another figure ground, orange, previous home, gray, proposed, and there's a couple of red lines here. So the previous garage was only 27 feet 4 inches from Bellevue. Our proposed garage is 52 feet 6 inches, right? That's a significant setback there. So I'm going to show you a diagram here. So the white kind of screened image with the black dashed line is the outline of the previous home, right? So if we were looking at this, and this is to scale, that's the placement of the old house, right? So our house is 25 feet 2 inches further to the east or set back into the property. And just a note here, and I assure you, we've looked at every possible way to design this property to comply. Sometimes it just isn't possible. A compliant driveway in the rear, given the setback constraints in the building envelope and the undersized lot, would just be so disturbing to the neighbor's property and trees that it's just not feasible. Wall height. We touched on that, but here's a diagram, and I have some exhibits that we can give to whoever would like them, but this just shows exactly where that wall height exceeds the 4 feet. So in the case of the southern part of the wall, that's a 5-foot wall, and then we have a 5'4". And both cases, excuse me, the intent is to preserve the trees. Here's an overlay showing the walls that are exceeding the 4 feet.
Would it help if we could zoom in a little bit more?
So that white oak tree to the left, that's a nice tree. This helps keep that tree. Okay? So for example, if we made that wall lower, we would have to grade that area where there's a lot of roots down to that wall, which we obviously don't want to do. And on the right side here, we have that other wall that's 5 feet tall. You can't really see it, and I think that's the point of the diagram. No one sees it but the user of this house. Steep slope disturbance. This is pretty straightforward.
I think we can move through this.
Yep.
Mr. Clark already addressed that, unless the board has any questions that we need further edification. I would pass through that.
Moving. Okay, building coverage. So here is a perspective of the rear of the house showing our covered patio. So obviously we're asking for some variance relief for building coverage, but in this case, as you can see here, not all building coverage is created equal. right? This is a patio with a roof. Now, obviously, per the zoning code, it is building coverage, but it is of paramount importance, given the end user and any real future user, to have this as a shaded space, right? That's what's important to our client, and I think it would be appreciated by every future client or future.
It's not just shaded, it's also protected from rain and
Sure.
snow. And we know about the snow this year. And that is a fireplace that would be accessible where the chimney is.
Correct, yep. So here's a side view. You can see, there's a lot of landscaping on this project. This really would not be seen by anyone but maybe the rear neighbor a little bit, and the user of the property. And just in regards to the neighbors, happy to report that our clients, Tyler and Lindsay Roten, were able to in person meet or speak on the phone with everyone adjacent to this project, and they have full support of all those people. One note, and I think it was touched on in the previous hearing, but I'll reiterate it here. We will be working with the neighbor to the south of this property on the design of that landscape, because she expressed some desire to not have a big green wall of trees. She likes the ability to look through the property. So the current landscape plan is showing an arborvitae hedge. We have not had the opportunity to meet with that neighbor yet, but that would be a condition, of this approval that we're happy to comply with, excuse me.
And what property is that?
On 77 Bellevue.
Thank you.
It looks like Lot 9 on the plan.
And we also, we are allowed to have a 6-foot opaque fence, but as a concession also to this neighbor, we're going to be going with a 4-foot high, black vinyl chain link fence, which would really just be absorbed by the landscaping on both sides, and that's per her request. So I feel like this is the most important diagram for this presentation. It's an overlay kind of stating our cause, or case, that is, for why it's important that this patio, one, be at the level of the main living space, but two, protected from the elements. So first, this is a southern exposure, right? And having helped Lindsay and Tyler on their house is also a southern exposure next door. This cooks in the sun, right? They have the benefit of a covered porch on their house, and they really couldn't live without it. Now, they're young and they have a young family. This house is being designed and constructed for Tyler's parents, right? So they're in their 70s. I lose track. They're in their 70s, right? And getting older like the rest of us. So we're trying to be conscientious of what is the most valuable space that we can create for them that is, one, accessible, and two, protected. So we believe that this achieves that. Southern exposure, full sun on the patio, that's a negative. Stormwater managed at the gutter system and conveyed to the seepage tanks. So let's just imagine this was a patio, right? The patio is hit by rain, the water runs off and goes into maybe a drain, maybe goes into the lawn, and maybe eventually gets to the dry well. Well, all stormwater that is hitting this space is going into the gutter system and being conveyed underground to the dry well. Right, so 100% managed stormwater in this case. Native and varied landscape treatment at the property line, touched on the collaboration with the neighbor. And then probably the single most important thing is that you can see the 4 stairs required to get to a patio, right? That's too many stairs in my opinion. By having it up at the elevation, which would be 6 inches down, right? Just normal construction techniques, you would step 1 step out of the door to the patio. But that becomes a really easy transition for everyone, but definitely someone who is older and may have challenges walking, right? So if this patio was simply at that level and did not have a roof, it would still be considered building coverage, right? Because anything greater than a foot above grade is considered building coverage that's attached to the house. Right, so it's kind of a double whammy there. And then lastly, in this diagram, you'll see that if this were a patio, it can be upwards of 5 feet, 4 inches closer to the neighbor, right? So this is a pretty modest size space. It's about 15 by 14, more or less. I have some measurements at the end of this presentation. But this is not a big space. You can see this is 2 scale. These are 2 little settee sofas and a couple of potted plants, and it's full. So another one of my orange and gray diagrams. Just, you know, as we were thinking about how to describe this, I felt that this would be helpful in that, you know, the previous patio was only 12 feet 10 inches from the property line. You know, the closest part of our covered porch is 20 feet 9 inches, right? That's another 8 feet further away. And then also the previous structure, main house, was only 16 feet 8 inches away. And, you know, being another 4 feet further away. So,
If I can stop you for a second, Jared, I actually think the proposed porch is 22 feet 4 from the rear lot, from that side lot line.
that's correct. So I was being conservative and I just measured to the chimney, right? So if you add the couple of feet of the chimney, we get to your number. And then lastly, you know, as a design team, Andrew, Kim, and I, you know, like, what's the good argument for having extra building coverage here? So, you know, being just the landscape architect here, my logical question, if I was sitting on this board, would be like, well, like, what are you doing in this building that's making it so big that you can't comply? And, you know, I'm not an architect, but, you know, I started looking at the size of the spaces, and there's no extra spaces, and there's no rooms that are over the top in size, right? So at the end of the day, you know, the only concession we're able to give to the board was, well, let's, you know, minimize lot coverage the most we could to mitigate any of this really important building coverage, you know, for our client. So in summary, I think you'll find, and I think the Environmental Commission will find, that, you know, we're doing everything possible to be as environmentally sensitive as we can on this property. We will have the tree protection in place per John Linson's recommendation and requirement. You know, we're using native plants. We're oversizing our stormwater system. You know, we're managing all the stormwater that's hitting this property into the dry well system. And also willing to do things like permeable pavers if that also helps the case here. But at the end of the day, it's of paramount importance that, you know, for Tyler's parents and Lindsay's in-laws to live here comfortably, we'll need relief on these 5 variances.
Thank you. Board professionals, what questions do you have for this witness?
I don't have any questions.
Just 2 questions. With regard to the retaining walls, you illustrated that I think they're dry-laid stone walls. Is that where they're going at this point, or do you know what the material is going to be?
They'll be natural stone.
Natural stone.
Whether they're dry laid or not, we're not sure. They may be structural.
But they will be stone. Okay.
Natural stone finish, and that would match the house.
We had a note in our report just noting that the size of the trees seem to be small at 2 inches. Any reason why you use the specification of 2 inches? Compared to typically, sometimes it's more 2.5 to 3.
Well, it's the minimum. So this is, we'll call like a code minimum landscape, but in actuality, when the final landscape plan is developed, almost every one of these trees will be minimum 4-inch caliper.
I thought so.
And we're willing to commit to that here. That's not an issue. But just from a code compliance landscape plan, that's
Gotcha.
where that's coming from.
I also saw the green giants were 14 to 16 feet tall, so I was wondering why there's a difference between the 2. But that would be all my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
If I
Ed.
can, Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm with the rodents that they're agreeing to 4-inch diameter plantings. I mean, how big are those trees at time of planting?
4-inch caliper.
Right.
They're probably 25 feet tall.
And they agree with that. If the board approves the application, then to make that a condition of approval.
And if you've been out to the site to, you know, before this hearing, their house next door, that's what we planted there. So these trees are now 8, 9-inch caliper. Look really good with holiday lighting on them. So anyway,
Okay.
big trees.
Board, what questions do you have for this witness? Mr. Bell.
I'd like to commend you on the tree choices. They're all native, as you said, and that's rare and quite wonderful. I'm not on the Environmental Commission. I used to be. I'm not speaking for them. I read their report. I can't channel what their reaction would be to what you're presenting today, but speaking personally, I think there's a lot of very good things in it. However, you mentioned the boxwood, and the reason that a non-native plant, not invasive, admittedly, but not a native, which could, I think, so easily be replaced by something else. And I would just like your opinion if you've thought of other alternatives, inkberry, holly,
Yeah.
for example. Do you use that in other jobs, or is there some particular reason? There are 104 boxwoods on the drawing. It's a lot.
It is. So, you live and learn. I've been a landscape architect over 25 years. I've tried everything. So I've tried Ilex glabra. They look really good for a couple years, and then they look really leggy, and then we rip them out. And they have a place, I think, in a park, I think further away from the house. But I think when you're creating frames, which is what we're doing with this landscape, it's really important to have a plant that will be beautiful for 20 years, right? Not 4.
Right.
So that would be the main reason. We've used Ilex crenata, which is not native.
Could you just explain what an ilex is?
Oh, it's a holly.
And Ilex glabra is the inkberry that I was asking about.
Yeah, they're both hollies, yeah.
Right.
And we've used those, and we tend to rip those out too. So we found that boxwood, even though boxwood blight is a real thing, it has been very treatable and much more managed over the last several years, and just will live longer.
Right, and the second of two questions, somewhat similar. On the plant schedule, deciduous shrubs are indicated as quote-unquote deciduous shrubs, 117 of them. Might that be New Jersey tea or something I've heard of?
So earlier in the presentation,
I may
I
have missed
can
that.
show you, but clethra is certainly one of them.
If you two gentlemen wouldn't mind using a layperson's language?
Well, New Jersey tea is a layperson's name. You can't drink it.
So in the center here, clethra is is it summer sweet, I think it's called? That's a native, has beautiful, this particular ruby spice has a great grapefruit scent to it. So this is really the plant palette, smooth hydrangea, so this would be the native Annabelle hydrangea. That's what deciduous shrub is referring to in this
Okay,
case.
I was just wondering why it
Yeah.
wasn't indicated.
And we go through a painstaking process with the client. It's like paint, right? Like, we haven't picked the paint colors for the house either inside. So I just wanted to give you a flavor for what the plants are, and then that's
Fair enough.
a lot of time will
And
be
I said
spent
two
there.
questions, but let me just sneak in a third, because you opened the door to a discussion of permeable paving, which is a passion, and it was in the Environmental Commission report, both the old one and the new one, if you will. Is that in the cards? We talked about it a little bit. It was talked about before. You mentioned it now, but I don't see it on the drawings.
So it's not on the drawings. However, in the previous discussion, we were over on lot coverage, right? So that's why we offered that. I think the client is still willing to offer it selectively in areas. Now, it does not, we do not get any credit, so to speak,
Yeah,
for
understood.
using it in the driveway, but we have discussed possibly putting it there. Excuse me. And then, the permeable pavers are kind of a funny thing, right? Because the paver itself is not permeable. It's the joints between the pavers that make it permeable. So in essence, you can use almost any material to have permeable pavement. So if we wanted to use bluestone, it's a matter of having 1/4-inch joints instead of, say, smaller joints, 1/8 inch or butt joints, that allows the water to percolate through. So these wouldn't be mortared joints. These would be like grit, gravel, like pulverized stone kind of joints. So long answer to your question, we did discuss it, and if it does help them achieve the other goals on the project, they are willing to do that.
I understand fully that the dry well, that the water management is taken care of, and the reduced coverage,
Yeah.
abets that. But as a landscape architect, not as a civil engineer, And your description of permeable pavers is correct, although there are some, and it could use a lay term, is the kind that has grass growing in between
Sure.
it, that look really nice on driveways, in my opinion, because they soften the hard or asphalt often edge. And just wonder your opinion as a landscape architect on this project in this context, given that you are over uncovered, whether that might still be, yes, it's not giving you any credit, but from a aesthetic, call it, benefit, would you recommend that to your clients if cajoled?
On this project, I wouldn't. We use products like that and also kind of the same products that are used for fire lanes, more in like the Jersey Shore environments where it's kind of like temporary parking and there's not going to be a lot of snow removal. You know, I find when there's snow removal, even pavers or Belgian block is a real pain. So the smoother the surface, the better. So for that reason, I think you'd end up doing a lot more damage than the good you would get from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then what you were talking about in terms of permeability would be the walkways?
Correct. There's a walkway at the back of the house, and I think, you know, the client would be willing to use permeable pavement there.
What other questions do we have for this?
Just two, I think. The patio/porch in the back.
Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, it's one step out, then you're onto the patio, porch,
Correct.
then it's 3 steps down to grade.
Correct.
Okay. And then why are the stairs still constructed in the driveway, just for access to the front yard?
Right, like if you, let's just say a friend comes over and they park in the driveway. And let's say they're a new friend, right? An old friend may know to come to the back door. But a new friend or someone that's just like selling Girl Scout cookies, for example, they're going to want to go to the front door, right? We felt that having some access that way, we used to have a walkway.
Right, that's-
But I think just, even from a 360 circulation standpoint for Tyler and Lindsay's children, it'd be nice to be able to freely move around the property, so.
Just no anticipation of a not Belgian block, bluestone pathway or anything like that in the future?
None whatsoever.
Mr. Malay,
Just
please.
a question about the two drawings, AP1, LD1 also. Those were originally and issued in October 25.
I'm sorry?
These drawings dated 25, October 27, 2025.
I think you're looking at the outdated.
These are the outdated. I don't,
May I
Where
approach
did-
just to see what they are?
Yes,
May I
please,
approach?
please,
Thank you.
please.
these were, I think, today.
I think the date wasn't changed. The drawings were changed, but the date wasn't changed.
This has the revised per site plan change dated January 27, 2026. So these are the most current plans. So if you could pose that question then.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, they weren't looking in the other
Are they exactly the same as we have seen today on exhibit? the first
Yes,
one?
everything on the screen is
Okay.
on that plan, yeah.
Because I saw the highlighted mark. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Malay.
I have just two questions. In the last meeting, there was some mention of doing the landscaping on the neighbor's property. It looks like here you're committing to doing all the landscaping actually on your property. Is that correct? Between the rear, side yard neighbor on Bellevue?
Yeah.
Is that,
Well, so it's still in play, right? We basically have a verbal agreement, or they have a verbal agreement with the neighbor to work with them. So Tyler and Lindsay are willing to help landscape the neighbor's side as well.
okay,
So this is just a plan of their property.
okay. And then just the second question is, you mentioned driveway non-compliance, that the driveway wasn't compliant. Can you explain what you mean by that?
The driveway?
Yeah,
I may have misspoken, the driveway is compliant.
I think if it,
You're talking about where the garage is.
Oh, the
then.
front-facing
Because you
garages.
said driveway, but I just want to make sure that we're talking about the garage and not the driveway, which,
Yeah, the garage is the issue that we're here for.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one more question. Go ahead. On your landscape drawing, it shows, this- I'm going to harp on these stairs to the front yard, but I don't see stairs to the backyard. Is it grade?
It's
If I
at
come in the
grade.
driveway, it's at
Yeah, the
grade?
driveway, it's a flat walkway, and then you'll
you
see
go
the
up.
stairs further back.
Over here, okay, very good, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Chair, question, actually more for Mr. Ball. How do you put into a zoning resolution to work with the neighbor?
Well, currently, our condition is the applicant shall coordinate with the neighbor. We have the representations on what they're willing to do generally. So they're bound by that testimony and they're bound by that condition. Obviously, it's not finalized, so we can't really say exactly how we want them to
So
resolve it.
can we
but-
say that it has to go through John Linsom again? Because it might be different, some of the landscaping might be off the property, actually.
I feel like Linson would sign off on this as it is.
Yeah, I think he did, but if
He
you
did.
change it and it goes off the property,
Yeah.
right, like,
I think
is that
that's
what you're getting at?
appropriate. And I assume, Mr. Weber, that's fine.
Yes,
with your-
that's acceptable.
So I would be concerned about your client, where the neighbor says, hey, I want, 8-foot arborvitae's along, now I've changed my mind, now I want 8-foot arborvitae's along my fence line. How do we prevent, we can't prevent that, right?
Well, I think that's where it goes back to Mr. Linson, and they've tried their best to work with the neighbor, again.
Okay.
Well, it could always be all on the property. That's always an option, to do it
Right.
all on your property, right?
Right.
So it's if it changes from what we see, it'll be run by Mr. Linson, right? Basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're committed to minimally do what's on this plan, right? So everything else would be above and beyond that.
any other questions? Seeing none. Any questions from the audience for this witness? Seeing none. Mr. Weber.
Mr. Chairman, we are running past our estimated 45 minutes. We do have a professional planner to help put perspective on the application and how a covered porch has become an amenity that is not unusual in the north side. And we can certainly call Mr. Greigel, but if the board wants to hold to the presentation to time, then perhaps there could be an understanding as to whether or not this suffices for the board's consideration.
This is going to be cheeky of me, but we're not going to offer an opinion. You can decide yourself.
Can I ask Mr. Ball a question, just to clarify? The covered porch, because this is a source of building coverage overage, right? If someone in the future decides to enclose that, because does have a roof, it has a wall, it has foundation, would that require a variance or not?
Unless
It would trigger an FAR
Well, I'm
variance.
asking Mr. Ball.
That's-
Yeah.
that was going to be my point, is if it pushes it over on FAR, then that would be a variance that's
But it
required.
wouldn't need another
Not
variance for building coverage?
Correct.
Well, if it were to be converted, will that calculation push us over on the FAR as well?
I would expect so.
Can we
What's the-
find out?
what's the margin?
Yeah. 'Cause I feel like that might need to be some,
I'm confused
Kim
as to...
Tone was sworn in previously, and she had advised me that it would put the application over the floor area ratio and trigger a variance.
It's not to be cheeky, my question is, so what? We're not contemplating that right now. A future homeowner, if they decide to build and do something that puts them over the FAR, they do so at their own risk. If they don't pull permits, they do so at their own risk. That's not our problem right now.
I guess, I
This
could
side.
address that in executive session, my thought on that, is that, probably not right now, right?
Okay. Mr. Weber.
If I could ask that Mr. Paul Greigel be called to the stand to be sworn in to provide testimony in this matter.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Yes, good evening. It's Paul Greigel, Greigel, licensed professional planner.
And you two have appeared before us a number of times, including relatively recently. Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
I've appeared here multiple times. Actually, since last time, I've actually taught a webinar for New Jersey planning officials.
License is still in good standing, I imagine.
Yes, since 1999, has been for the entire time.
And I imagine we will accept you back once again as well.
Yes,
Great.
welcome
Thank you, I
back.
appreciate it.
Please proceed.
Mr. Greigel, have you formed an opinion as a professional planner as to the benefits and detriments of the proposed application?
Yes, I have.
Would you be kind enough to share that with the board?
Yes, just to be brief in the matter of what the variances are required, we have 5 of them. I believe at least 4 qualify under the C2 criteria of the benefits and detriments. I'll start first, though, very quickly with, there's one hardship, in my opinion, regarding the prevailing front yard setback or average front yard setback. We have a lot that is a corner property. It is roughly a third as deep as its neighboring lots up the street along Hillcrest. So because of the size being much smaller and the much greater depth of those properties, to comply, we saw a diagram provided by one of the prior witnesses showing a house would be essentially pushed back towards the, we'll call it, it's the side property line, but really to the rear off of Hillcrest. And you could not have a compliant house built within the envelope that's permitted by that prevailing setback. With regard to the other variances, we've also heard extensive testimony and seen exhibits showing the benefits of this application. From a planning point of view, I think, to summarize what some of those are, they include providing for new housing that's up to current codes. That also would provide for its own stormwater management. We would have landscaping that preserves existing trees to a great extent and greatly enhances the landscaping on the property with native plants. I know that's a desirable factor that's been talked about by the board and the professionals. In addition, we're dealing with essentially providing customary outdoor living space. We have a unique situation as far as not having the ability to provide for a covered area in the rear because of the coverage requirement for building coverage, but it's actually better, as we've heard through the testimony, with regard to the design of the rear patio, the covered patio, to have it up above the grade, to have it farther back from the neighboring properties. Likewise, with regard to some of the issues on the variances for the retaining walls and the the garage, it's fronting, essentially, we have a better zoning alternative here by not fully complying with the ordinance. So with that said, I believe all these benefits, again, outweigh any detrimental impacts. It's very focused as far as the potential impacts. I believe we've mitigated them. So in my opinion, the positive criteria are met for the C2 variances, the 4 of those, the 1 hardship. As far as the negative criteria, not to rehash what everyone said, but essentially the potential negative impacts are very limited, would not be essentially visible from neighboring properties or the street, given the landscaping, given the setbacks. And in the unique circumstances we have here, there'd be no substantial impairment to the master plan or zoning ordinance.
And does the master plan talk about this type of construction at all?
Well, I don't know about specifically, but basically that, you know, we're providing for something that's contextual with the design of houses in this section of the city, with regard to trying to have building materials that, you know, match the prevailing aesthetic and really trying to fit within the established character. And I do believe that the proposal certainly is consistent with regard to, you know, those factors.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Weber. Board professionals, what do you have for this witness?
No question.
Okay, great. Board members, what questions do you have for this witness?
I just got, sorry to be sticking in the mud.
Nope.
I have a question.
Go for it, Don.
How big is the house? How many square feet?
I want to, the numbers change slightly, so I'll make sure I get the correct one here at my fingertips. Coverage, I don't have. 3,891 square feet. That's the number that's, at least as far as floor area from the calculations for FAR.
All right, so if I understand correctly, the building envelope on this lot would be considerably smaller than what is now if you were to conform to the requirements of the zoning. That makes sense. Does that question make sense?
I believe so. The fact that we're under on the floor area ratio, and again, I didn't, in the interest of time, I didn't point this out, but it was mentioned before. Every single R25 zoning standard is met. Including now impervious coverage with FAR, all the other setbacks, et cetera. Yes, so we're
that's
underneath
R25?
on that envelope, if you will.
This is an R25 zone? 'Cause I thought you were.
Yes.
Maybe I missed the two. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and the board can tell me to be quiet if they want to. What size house could you build on this property?
If I can, with regard to the floor area ratio?
Just in the building envelope.
Okay, well, the FAR, I have that on the chart here.
If you did, I didn't.
No, well, not my chart, but I'm referring to
Okay,
the one that's already, if it's still the same number, 3,925 square feet.
Well, that's the,
That's
in terms of
FAR.
the lot area, and I'm trying to move this ahead. If we could recall Mr. Kess to demonstrate where the red lines are.
You know what, I don't want to, I'm just
I'm sorry, the
I'm
building
just trying to
envelope is
figure
saying-
out if you remove the foot from one side of the house, would it make a big difference or two,
At this point, what
I know, I don't want to go down the road too far, but I'll withdraw my question. Don't worry about it. I was just asking some questions that I thought you might have the answers to right off the top of your head.
I think that if you stayed within the frontage, the front yard setbacks, they were talking about a house that would be deep of around 23 or shallow around 23 feet from front to back is the number I've heard. It's close to that. That was
All right.
Andrew Clark, who's previously been
Yep,
sworn
all right,
in.
thank you.
What other questions do we have for this witness? Seeing none. Questions from the public? Seeing none? All right, Mr. Weber.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll reiterate what I opened with, that Joe Steiner indicated when he was listening at some point to the presentations of the board, that these applications result in a better application, a better product than what was originally presented to this board. And when we look at this application, it is better. They've brought it, they've cut that building coverage down from 3.3% over down to 1.4. We're talking a couple hundred square feet in terms of excess. They've eliminated the lot coverage variance altogether, and they're willing to agree to those conditions that have been made as representations to this board. So based on that, I would submit the application to the approval of the board.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none. All right. Mr. Ball, what are our conditions and number of votes required?
So I have 3 conditions noted. First is our usual compliance with the conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second is that the applicant shall coordinate with the neighboring property owners regarding additional plantings adjacent to the properties located at 77 Bellevue and 67 Hillcrest. The final plantings shall be subject to a review and approval by the city forester. And the third condition I have noted is that the new trees shall be a minimum of 4-inch caliper at the time of planting. Here, we're only dealing with C variances, so 4 votes are required to approve the application.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. With that, who would like to begin our executive session?
I'll start.
Mr. Nelson. You've been so quiet tonight.
Yeah, I'm
so
sorry to
thank
be a
you
pain
for
in the neck.
stepping
I just
up.
had some questions that I thought were interesting, but apparently not. I can support this project. I'm glad to see that you've listened to the board and, you've listened to what our concerns were. I think the shape of the lot, corner lot, always becomes challenging. This kind of reminds me of another project we had in town that was kind of the same scenario. But I think you've done a fantastic job. I think the pros outweigh the cons. I think the hardship is that definitely being a corner lot, which you've accomplished very well. So I can definitely support this project.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Who else? Allison?
Not yet.
Not yet. Who's on?
Sure. I have a question. I don't know if this is, really, it's the porch that's driving this, right? I mean, there's the steep slopes. That is kind of what it is just to even do some of the construction here. there's not much you're going to do about having 2 front yards. Actually, you've improved upon that. And I do recall the house that was there and how close the driveway was to the street. So, I mean, some of the things are not negotiable, the variances, unless you didn't put a house up, or you, to your point, Don, maybe you put a house that's 200 square feet up so that you can meet all the setback requirements. So in the, in trying to be reasonable, but I'm wondering about this porch. And that's the thing that's driving the building coverage, really? And if it's meant to be used as a porch only, is it something that could be a condition that says if it is enclosed, then it needs to be reviewed for variance, or is that not a?
I mean, that's just the reality of it.
I guess
is that-
because it actually, and I did calculate, it would push you over FAR by 1.4%. So yeah, I guess.
It would be a
it
zoning
would trigger.
violation, too,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. That would be the only thing. And I think, I appreciate that when you were here the first time, you heard us and you came back and made some adjustments that I think are to the benefit of the neighborhood. And, I think this is a plan I could support.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Mr. Bell?
I think as the fourth alternate, I won't be able to vote, but I think if I were to be able to vote, I would vote in favor for a reason that has very little to do with the porch or the walls or the steep slope or the design of the house or its landscaping. And that's just the wonderful circumstance of being able to have a multi-generational compound, given the zoning ordinance. You have next doors built-in babysitters. I'm in my 70s. I wish my grandkids were a lot closer than where they are. And how little or how much this site plan relates to the adjacency factor, I think this should be commended for recognizing social infrastructure that is hard to find in Summit, frankly. So good luck with it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bell. I'll note for future applicants, if you speak favorably about Mr. Steiner, you're going to score some points with me. So just keep that in mind. I am certainly in favor of this application, given the undersized lot and the 2 front yards, plus I will echo what everyone else says. Certainly look favorably upon anyone who's willing to heed the concerns of the board and make adjustments. And I would agree that those adjustments have improved the project. Clearly, that these changes are positive and something that I can support. So with that, can I get a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Chairman Liketz?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
members of the board.
All right, moving right along. 32 Lennox.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know if
Oh, 45?
You guys need a break?
No,
I'm going to power through.
Yeah.
let's move.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Ms. Hulse. Please
Okay.
proceed.
All right, I'm Hillary Alls from Dempsey Ch, representing the applicant Andrew and Danielle Chiswick regarding property located at 32 Lenox Road, Block 2501, Lot 22 in the R15 zone. Taking your advice, Chairman, we also agree that with what Joe Steiner said and how coming back
So
does
smart,
make the
so smart.
applications better. In line with what Jim was saying, again, we've listened to all of the board's comments, and the applicant and their experts previously appeared before the board on December 17th, 2025. At that hearing, plans were presented for construction of a pool, pool house, and associated outdoor improvements with requested variance relief for the height of the pool house, the height of wall and fence combination, and disturbance of steep slopes. During that hearing, the board provided comments and feedback, which the applicant carefully considered and subsequently directed their professionals to address through plan revisions. The revised plans have been submitted to the board and will be presented this evening. As revised, the application eliminates the previously requested variance for the height of the pool house, as well as the variance for the maximum height of the wall and fence combination. The plans also reflect a reduction in impervious coverage, which is compliant with ordinance requirements, and further reduces the disturbance of the steep slope area. As a result of these revisions, the only relief sought tonight is for variance for steep slopes. The property presents unique challenges. It is constrained by significant topography and is further burdened by a front yard setback that exceeds the required minimum by nearly 50 feet. That extraordinary setback substantially diminishes the usable depth and functionality of the rear yard. These conditions are intrinsic characteristics of the property that inhibit the extent to which the property can be used and impose an undue hardship and create practical difficulties in achieving improvements that would otherwise be permitted as of right. The proposed improvements represent a balanced approach that allows the applicant reasonable use of the property as otherwise permitted while accounting for the unique hardships presented by the site. At the same time, the revised plans respect and advance the intent and purpose of the steep slope ordinance, which is designed to regulate disturbance and not prohibit it altogether. This evening's presentation will include testimony from the architect, civil engineer, and landscape architect, each of whom will review and highlight the revisions to the plans. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or we can call the first witness.
I just had one, because I see the applicant's not testifying. Do you know if the applicant spoke to the neighbors to the rear about this project?
Yes, they did.
I assume the outcome was favorable?
Yes, and none of the neighbors are here tonight to provide any comments in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. All right, Hillary.
Okay.
Let's have your first witness.
Sure, Zachary Goldstein. And I believe he was previously sworn.
Yes, he
and
was.
provided
You remain under oath. Go ahead.
Okay, so revisions to the proposal were made based upon comments by the board members at the last hearing. Can you describe from an architectural perspective what the revisions are that have been made to the plan?
Yes, ultimately, we reduced the height of the pool house significantly to bring it into compliance. And so, as measured from the kind of patio area up over here, the roof is now only 11'6" above the height of that patio. Because of the existing grade which we're measuring from, the technical height of the total pool house is 15 feet, which is in compliance with the maximum requirement. But like as viewed from the majority of the backyard, it would appear to be even lower than that. Yeah. And I think the other kind of adjustment that we made is where previously we had a walkout basement. We're no longer disturbing the ground behind the pool house. The pool house itself has been shifted 8.5 feet further from the rear property line. So we're coming
Mr. Goldstein, I don't know that the microphone's turned on. Is there?
Does that work? Oh,
There you go.
apologies. Should I restate that?
No.
So, yeah, the pool house has been brought forward
from the rear property line by 8.5 feet. So now it's, the rear of the pool house is over 32 feet from the rear property line. And as I was saying, we're no longer disturbing this area behind the pool house. And as a result, we no longer have a walkout basement. So there's a small window which you can kind of see at the back of the pool house. That's just to provide a little bit of sunlight. And frankly, to break up the facade so that it doesn't feel like this kind of continuous, uninterrupted facade. But that window is significantly smaller than would be required for egress, and there's no plan to really occupy the basement. It would be used for storage and for concealing the mechanical equipment, which I think would be a benefit to the neighbors.
Okay, so again, you are confirming that the pool house will not be used as an accessory dwelling unit, and I believe that was a condition of approval at the last hearing. Is there any lighting proposed for the pool house?
Yes, we're proposing a total of 4 sconces that are kind of decorative and not likely to give off a significant amount of light. They'd be in compliance with the ordinance. So there's 4 of them, two on the side, 2 on each side of the proposed pool house. And like I was saying, they wouldn't give off a dramatic amount of light. It's really primarily for kind of safety purposes, so that this staircase on the side of the pool house would have some lighting, and also to just have a little bit of light on the side here by the patio.
Excellent. And is the pergola still being proposed, and if so, what is the height?
We haven't really changed anything with regard to the pergola, but we haven't really laid it out in detail. It would be in compliance with the maximum height, so it would be under the 15-foot requirement.
Excellent. I don't have any other questions.
Great. Board experts, what questions do you have for this witness?
I'm just questioning something you just said about the pergola, that you haven't actually removed that. That's still on the plans. I'm trying to think of
It's
why
undetermined because it hasn't been a final design.
Okay,
We still have a detail that was on the previous plans,
great.
and I'm just acknowledging that detail is there.
That's fine, fine. And somehow, in my review, I was thinking that it had been removed, but that's not the case, right? So,
Again, it's kind of undecided at this point. Regardless, it would be going over impervious coverage, so it wouldn't require any additional approvals. And if it was constructed, it would be under the height that's required.
okay. Does the relocation of the pool house change anything about the walls? Or is that something that maybe somebody else?
I think
So the engineer is
Okay.
going to testify.
How about, can you talk about anything that is inside the pool house, like some of the pool equipment?
Yeah, I think the equipment that would customarily be associated with a pool, the equipment that like filters and heats the pool, would be located within the basement.
So typically that would be outside and it would need to be screened. This will be obviously inside, so fully screened and a benefit to the neighbors because they're not going to be looking at any of that equipment.
So does that all discharge then to the sanitary system within the building? Or is that discharging somewhere else?
I think the
I
civil
think
engineer-
that's for the engineer.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
You've clarified the pergola for me, thank you, and the other aspects of our comments. I think the only thing you have is the air conditioner in the back of the pool house, but that'll be appropriately screened by landscaping, I presume.
Correct.
Being proposed, and then the fence itself will be bordering the outer property line. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I think you have landscaping that protects any of the fall zones for the trees, for the walls, excuse me.
I think the landscape architect could probably speak a little bit more specifically to that.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Ed. Board members, what questions do we have for the architect?
Yes, what is the purpose of the stairs on the side of the pool house now that there's not a sort of a rear walkout basement door?
You know, there isn't like an explicit purpose to them. It's to provide access to this rear area. We're not disturbing it, but we still wanted to provide access to it. So it's simply to provide access to the kind of area behind the pool house. Maintenance.
That way you can get behind the retaining wall, in between the landscaping, and
Okay, thanks.
What other questions?
I have a question. So
Sure,
metal
Allison.
guardrail, that's the front of the pool house, facing the pool?
No, this was along the retaining wall. It'd be along the retaining wall.
Oh, so the pool's, okay, so it's the back, just so that,
Yeah, this sorry. This view here is the back, the rear view.
because the pool house was pushed forward, now you're going to see some of the patio area. So that is protecting you from falling
okay.
off
Yeah.
the patio.
And then, I'm sorry, one other question. With the pool house, you just chopped off the whole roof?
I mean, we have a lot of exterior trim work on the rear of it, but that's right, we no longer have a gable on the roof.
And it's a flat roof, and what's the material?
It would likely be a EPDM membrane to waterproof the roof. It wouldn't be really visible because you'd be below it, standing on the patio, so you wouldn't really be able to see it unless you were like in their house or in,
The neighboring houses?
they'd have a tough time seeing it with all the trees that are around it, so I don't think they'd have a real easy view of it, but yes.
And what color?
It'll likely be black.
We previously had a condition that the plans were going to be revised to reflect that there's no dwelling unit or beds in the accessory structure.
Correct.
Are
I
any
think
references?
It's not proposed to be an accessory, to be used in that fashion, and I think the homeowner would be happy to commit to a deed restriction that notes that.
Yeah, and that was a separate condition, but there's no reference to dwellings or anything of that sort in the current plans?
Not at all, no.
correct?
Correct. And again, by removing the walkout basement and changing those windows, which are not code compliant for egress, you couldn't put any kind of a basement or living area down there.
All right, thank you.
Tom, was there any thought that when you moved the pool house forward to not move the proposed patio forward so you would disturb even the less steep slope, or was that not a consideration?
Yeah, that was part of it. By moving it forward, we're disturbing less steep slope. That was definitely a consideration.
But the patio, is the patio smaller than it was on the previous plan, or the same?
It's shifting forward. So like where the pool house was previously further back, there was patio occupying that. I mean, the layout's a little bit different, but so ultimately, I think we're reducing the ultimate disturbance.
There's actually, I think it's 518, it could be 516 square feet reduction in impervious coverage.
The changes, and I think Ms. Oles mentioned, they're responsive to everything that the board said.
Anyone else? Okay. Any questions from the public for this witness? Seeing none, all right. Ms. Oles,
Peter
your next
Korzen.
witness. Great, thank you.
Again, I believe he was previously sworn
He
and
was?
accepted
Yes, he
as an
was. He'll
expert.
remain under oath.
Okay. Mr. Korzen, since there are board members who are here tonight who were not at the prior hearing, I would ask if you could briefly describe the existing conditions of the site.
Yes, I just brought that up. That's the existing conditions plan, sheet 2. The site is located on the west side of Lenox Road. It's in the R25 zone district, and it includes 45,869 square feet of area. And you can see here that the house is situated far back from Lenox Road, approximately in the center of the site. There's a driveway that leads up to a detached garage on the south side of the house.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you? Can you tell us how far that setback is?
Yes, I'll describe that later on, but it's
Okay.
83.4 feet to the right-of-way line,
And
the front of the house.
35 feet is what is required.
Correct. And in back of the house is a slate patio, and then also the topography is a little different here because in the front of the house, it slopes down towards Lenox Road, and there's a very steep area that steep slopes in the front along the road. And in the back, when you look at this patio, you see some steps here. Those steps actually go up, so there's a higher area here,
and then it drops off steeply in the back, and there's a larger steep slope area in the very back of the property. These steep slope areas total 11,420 square feet, so that's a quarter of the entire site. And especially the back steep slope area, that actually, if you like strike a line along the back of the house and say that's the backyard, that occupies over a third, that steep slope area occupies a third of that rear yard area. Other than that, there are some utilities. There's overhead electric, telephone, and cable. There's underground gas and water. There's an underground sanitary sewer lateral that's located in the front of the house that goes to Lennox Road. And there's also a storm drainage system currently for the house and for the detached garage. There's 2 dry wells located in the front. One is a smaller one for the garage, and one is a larger one for the house. And you can also see some trees on this plan. There are mature trees greater than 8-inch diameter, quite a few in the front and some in the back.
And can you maybe just describe some of these steep slopes in the back? Is there any ecological value or, you know, if you could just maybe explain to the board about those steep slopes?
Yeah, there's no ecological value, and I'll talk about the impacts of the proposed improvements after I describe those. But this is the lot grading plan. This is sheet 1. And I'm just going to bring this up briefly to show you how everything is oriented relative to the surrounding, or the entire site, and I'll bring up an enlargement in a minute. But you can see all the proposed improvements are in the rear yard with the exception of a new sanitary sewer lateral that runs along the north side of the house and connects with the existing lateral in the front. Okay, this is the enlargement. This is sheet 2, and this shows the rear yard area. You can see clearly that there is the steep slope area shaded here. This is the pool house, which has been slid forward. You heard about that, 8.5 feet further from the, when compared with the previous plan. On the east side of the pool house is an in-ground pool with a surrounding patio. There's also a patio on the south side of the pool house. And one of the main improvements, other than these hardscape features, is also to create a usable rear yard where there currently isn't any. So in order to accomplish that, we're flattening this area out here, getting into the steep slopes with the flattening, and in order to create that usable rear yard, there is a retaining wall that's required that runs along the west side of the development area, connects to the pool house, and there's also another wall that runs along the pool house and along the north side of the pool. As far as utilities go, there is a water line that starts at the house and feeds to the pool house, and there is a sanitary sewer lateral that runs from the pool house to the front existing lateral. One of the main advantages of this plan is the stormwater management system that we're adding. Currently, there is sheet drainage that actually drains to the west and to the northwest corner of the site. That's currently uncontrolled from the lawn area. And what we're doing is we're capturing a big portion of that with the impervious surface and the 14 drain inlets that we're adding, in addition to a slot drain in the pool patio. So all of that runoff, including the pool house roof drains, get conveyed to a dry well system, which comprises 3 tanks here. They're standard dry wells, 4 foot deep, 8 foot diameter, surrounded by stone. And that system has been designed per code.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
In your opinion, is that improving the stormwater management from the existing condition?
It does, because all of this would be uncontrolled. If you just vision this whole rear yard, you can see these slopes, they're all leading down toward the west and toward the northwest corner. All of that gets, or a good portion of it gets captured by these lawn inlets and gets conveyed underground.
Do you have an approximate percentage by which you're improving it?
Well, we have impervious coverage that's broken down on sheet 1 that shows what's proposed, but I don't have a detailed analysis of the rear yard, no.
Just ballpark, if you have a rough estimate.
I'm just looking at this plan, I would say that probably a third of the rear yard is being captured.
Thank you.
As far as trees go, we're proposing to remove, well, actually, this plan shows 8 trees on the plan that you have, but
There's actually 6 trees that are going to be removed. And the reason is this is an older topographic survey where 2 of the trees have been removed already. I believe one of them is right here at this location, at the steps. The other is by the dry well system. But you'll hear more about that from the landscape architect. And as far as the steep slopes go, well, you know what? Let me just go back to sheet 1 here. If you just look in the upper right, there's a zoning data table. And you can see that we've eliminated the 2 variances from the previous plan. Previously, we had a 23.2-foot height of the pool house. And because there's no rear door to the pool house, and we've split it further, even though the pool house height is measured to existing ground, to average of existing ground, it still complies. It's 15 feet high now, and it was 23.2 feet high. The second variance we've eliminated is for the combination of wall and guard, which we do have next to these retaining walls. There's also a 4-foot guard on top of the retaining walls. We've eliminated that variance that we had previously where it was 12 feet combination of wall and guard. Now we have it at 10 feet, which complies with code. So at the maximum height, we have a 6-foot high wall at this angled location right here, and a 4-foot fence on top of it, so that gets you to 10 feet.
But that wall is not consistently that height, correct?
No, it's not. It's only at this location here, and then it tapers down to 0 to the south, and it's about 4 feet at the pool house, and it's also 4 feet along the north side of the pool.
And there's a reduction in steep slope disturbance,
Yes,
is
I was
that
going to
correct?
get to that. The steep slope variance previously was 4,900 square feet. We're proposing 4,000 square feet just by making adjustments to this plan. And one thing I'll just bring up, and there's 2 really burdens on this property. One of them is the steep slopes, and there's one located in the front, which you've seen, and this big one in the back. The other is the position of the house and the existing improvements on the lot. The house is set back, as you've heard, 83.4 feet from the right-of-way, and it could have been positioned at 35 feet. So if this house and all these improvements were slid forward, there would be no steep slope disturbance in the back. So there would be no variance. It would be an as-of-right application. So just getting back to the steep slopes, they do not have any ecological value, and I know there is an ordinance, and the purpose is to identify first the steep slopes, which are 15% or greater, and the second is also to promote reasonable development within the steep slopes, not prohibit the development. And that's what we've done here. There's 2 things to consider as far as impacts. One of them would be erosion, the other one is drainage. As far as erosion goes, there will be sediment control measures that will be implemented as shown on sheet 4 in your plan set. That'll all be regulated by the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. And also, as far as drainage goes, you've already heard that we're improving the situation where now you have a very substantial drainage system that's capturing probably 1/3 of the backyard, where currently it all sheet drains towards the northwest and towards the west.
And if I could just jump in and
Yeah.
ask, in your opinion, will the introduction of the retaining walls and the pool house act to stabilize the slopes and prevent erosion better than what is existing?
Yes, it accomplishes 2 things. One of them is to provide the usable area that was discussed, which is sorely needed, and the other one is it provides a stop at the low end of the steep slope disturbance, and it does stabilize that area, and it's fully connected. It starts at 0 foot for the retaining wall, comes around to the pool house, and then continues with the retaining wall on the north side of the pool. So that does provide the stabilization.
Excellent. And have you had an opportunity to review the administrative comments? And if so, can you respond to any of those comments that you have not already addressed in your testimony?
I believe I've testified to just about all of them, except for maybe number 9. And there is a question about the maintenance of the drainage system. So in addition to the manhole access, which is required by the city for the dry wells. We've also provided sumps at 2 drainage inlets, directly above or directly upstream from the dry well system. One of them is labeled D10, the other one is D11. So anything that flows into those 2 inlets, there is going to be a sump on the bottom, with an open bottom, and that can be accessed and cleaned out, just in case there's any debris that enters the system. So with the combination of that and the manhole access to the dry wells, that's how it'll be maintained. I believe I've covered everything else, except for maybe there was still a question about the pool and the sanitary sewer system. The answer is yes, we will discharge to the new sanitary sewer lateral, and I think the only clarification is that the pool has a volume of less than 36,000 cubic feet. And this pool hasn't been completely redesigned yet, but just using 900 square feet, which is the pool surface area, and using a 5-foot average depth, it's less than 35,000 cubic feet, so we comply with that.
Great. Thank you.
I think that's probably it. There was one comment from the city engineer. It's more of a statement of understanding. Okay. Yeah, he's concerned about extra measures should be taken downhill during construction. And you'll see that on sheet 4. We have a very substantial soil erosion sediment control plan with a detail sheet that goes along with it. And that includes a silt fence located at this location, in addition to inlet protection, and there's a stabilized construction access next to the garage. All of that's shown on sheet 4.
Board experts, what questions do you have for this witness?
I wanted to talk about the dry well system. Is there any opportunity to capture water from other, like the roof on the house at all?
I wish there was, but the system already, or the house already goes to an existing system.
Which is in the
Which is in the front.
yard?
Which,
Okay.
which,
Yep.
you know, in some cases, that's not the situation with an application. So there's quite a bit of stormwater management here when you consider the existing and the proposed.
Okay.
And I forgot to mention that one thing we've done with this revised plan, I think we were a little short last time with the tributary area to the dry well system. We just didn't quite make the net change in impervious surface. We were close, but we didn't make it. With this plan, we do. We actually exceed the net change in impervious surface.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you accomplished that by some of those yard inlets,
Yes.
right? Those
Yeah.
were not on the last plan?
Yeah, we
The
just.
slot drain?
The slot drain was not there. There was a couple of inlets there, but I think we just looked at everything, and it just, when you consider everything all together, you have the pool, you have the pool house, you have the patio, both patio areas. You have some of the walls that are close to the drainage inlets, all the chimney in the back, all that goes to this drainage system.
Okay, so you have roof drains that are attached to the pool house that are routed to the dry well system. Any of the runoff, could you talk about the runoff from the pool patio and how that's directed to the dry well system?
Yeah, there's 2 patio areas. One is by the pool, and you can see that there's the slot drain on the west side, and there's also drains labeled D2, D3, and D4, and even D5, located on the east side of the pool. Those will pick up that side of the patio. There's also drain inlets D6 and D7 on the north side of the pool. Those will pick up that runoff. There's also D1 and D10 on the south side of the pool that'll pick up that runoff. And there is D11, D12, D13, and D14, which collect runoff from the patio that's on the south side of the pool house. So there's quite a few. Like I said, there's 14 lawn inlets and also the slot drain. Yeah.
And you addressed, thank you, the pool equipment in the pool house and the drainage for that, and you testified that the pool should be less than 36,000 gallons. So I think you're good with that. Can you talk about any changes in wall heights that were on the property?
Yeah, we did have a higher wall. It was 12 feet was the combination. We still had a 4-foot fence. So, we had an 8-foot wall at one time, and we brought that down to 6 feet. But again, it's only at one location. It's only where these angles are by the chimney, and it tapers off dramatically from there.
And that's fully compliant.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I think that's all I had.
Great, thank you. Ed?
Chairman, just 2 quick questions. You had also reduced the amount of impervious coverage, right, by 500?
Yes, 518 square feet.
In the revised design?
Yeah.
And the way you've adjusted your impacts to the steep slope is because of the way you've moved the pool house and the retaining wall?
Yes.
It's now pulled out of that area, preserving that tree in the back?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Ed. Board members, what questions do you have? Mr. Malay?
First of all, I see the major issue here is the proposed wood house, which finished the elevation of the top or the roof elevation is like 124.
I think 124.5.
Yeah. That's really a high elevation, and looking at the contour around this area, it's going to stick out as a major. From any part, from this side to this side, you're going to see the pool house.
Well, if you look here, this is sheet 2 of the site plan set. You can see that there's a diagram on the left that shows the pool height calculation. So you're correct, it is 124.5. But the actual elevation of the pool house when you walk in is 113.5.
I'm talking about the roof elevation, because that's
Yeah,
what you're
124.
going to see from everywhere.
Right.
From this part. Okay, we don't have neighbors here, right?
No, that's another thing that I was going to mention, I forgot. If you look at where these proposed improvements are relative to the surrounding area, they're all located at the northwest corner of this property, which is the furthest from the houses in the surrounding area. I believe the closest house would be immediately to the north, which I think is 38 Lenox, and even that's far. But if you look on Google Earth, it is the most distant location on this property for those improvements to be.
Right, but it is visible, this structure, the pool house,
Well,
will be visible from the 38.
You're still going to hear from our landscape architect, and they prepared a very substantial plan with buffers.
So with buffers and
Yes.
trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, the height is compliant with the ordinance.
The pool house height is compliant, yes.
Yeah, from the...
From the average grade.
Not from the average grade, from the established grade, the grade that you have
Well-
on the, after the regrading.
Well, actually, this is, the code is what we've done here, this analysis, and that's a worst case, because that uses existing elevations. That's before everything gets raised up. So,
So I'm looking here at this drawing that you're, let's look at elevation 105, 106.
okay, they're in back of the pool house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is the best location for the proposed pool house. Why? It is impacting our need for disturbance. I mean, if not for the pool house, we wouldn't have been, we don't need to do all this disturbance.
Well, your ordinance defines height based on existing elevations. So we can't change what's back there. That's low, that's low.
Exactly where I was trying to go to. I'm trying to say, if we did not put this house at this location, let's say here where these driveways are, we don't need to disturb this area.
Right, but then we're redesigning. And again, the steep slope ordinance does not say that you cannot build in the steep slopes. It just regulates how you build, and it makes sure that you comply with certain criteria that's in the steep slopes, which is what they're doing. And if the house was built at 35 feet from the front yard, then this proposal would be fully compliant. But the applicants have a hardship because the house was built too far back. And on top of that, they have steep slopes that they have to work with. And so, yes, you could design any project to have no variances, and you could design any project to make it conforming, but that doesn't make it the best plan. This is the best plan because it's located farthest away from any of the neighbors. There's going to be significant landscaping proposed, which you're going to hear about, and it complies with the intent and purpose of the steep slope ordinance.
That's exactly my point. The steep slope ordinance is to limit the steep slope disturbance by 1,000, not by 4,000.
But no, what it says is that if you're under 1,000, you can do it as of right. If you're over 1,000, as long as you meet the intent and purpose of the ordinance, then disturbance is permitted. But you have to come before the board to make sure that you're meeting all of that criteria.
That requires a variance. A variance is not deviation from the code.
And a
So-
variance is, for C1 variance, you have to prove a hardship. And in this case, they have two hardships.
And what is the benefit then?
So if you,
Let's just keep in mind.
right, if you kind of keep moving on, we can.
Let me jump in. From the perspective, they're asserting it's a hardship, and it's a C1 variance is what they're requesting. In those cases, you're not looking at benefits versus negatives, you're looking at the hardship meeting the positive criteria versus the negatives that it would pose. So they don't necessarily need to show the benefits
agree.
that are supported
I agree
under
to
the
that,
municipal
yeah.
land use law.
However,
But they are improving the stormwater management, and they will be improving the landscaping and the view from all of their neighbors, which you will see. So in reality, it is actually improving all of the conditions for the neighboring properties.
okay, so the only hardship here is having a steep slope.
And the fact that the house is 50 feet farther into the property than where it's supposed to be. So if this house had been built at 35 feet from the front property line, then whatever they propose would be 50 feet forward. But because somebody built the house where they built it, which was not my client and which they can't change, they are now limited to a rear yard space that is 50 feet less than what they should be entitled to.
Can I ask about that for a second?
So,
Just-
yeah, please.
Because I drove down to the property the other day, and it didn't look like there were very many houses, if any, on Lennox that were sited that far forward on the lot. So would you say that condition is unique to this house in that neighborhood or consistent with the rest of the neighborhood?
So if you look across the street, I would say they were all much closer. If you look at the neighbor right next to them, this house is farther back than that house, and that house doesn't have steep slopes in the backyard. You know, certain houses may be set back, but then they don't have the additional burden of the steep slope. So I think that there's unique conditions on this property that not all of the other properties have.
So the steep slope is probably the primary driver, and the siting of the house is more of a secondary driver relative to the neighbors?
Again, I think in combination with both, they're both hardships if you look at it in terms of the ordinance and the way the homes were designed to be built.
And just one more question following up Mr. Malay's point. What proportion or what level of square footage of the steep slope disturbance is solely attributable to the pool house versus the building of the pool?
It's probably 2/3 of the pool house is in the steep slope. So the pool house itself is,
The pool house is, I think, 576 square feet, so it's not a large building. I'm saying
Yes.
that it's not permitted to be a large building. So I wouldn't say that the pool house itself is a large element of it.
Mr. Malay, did you have any follow-ups to this? Otherwise, I'd like to ask a question.
Okay. Seeing there is a hardship, isn't it a good idea to think about a different location for the pool house?
So they moved it forward. So the previous plan, it was farther back. And they came back and they redesigned it and they pushed it forward closer to their house.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, that's what they did. So their original plan, it was much closer to the rear property line. And now they've come back and they've pulled it closer to their.
I agree, fully
Yeah.
agree, but if we can move it even further away to where we have the 3 driveways, that would be a best area.
But then you're moving it fully into the middle of the property, and that's actually located closer to the house, which is right behind them. So it would impact that neighbor greater than it would if it was tucked over in the corner. And when you see the way that the landscaping is, which is around the entire perimeter, it will block the view of that. And the neighbors who live in the back have seen this plan, and they are comfortable with it.
The 26 will be nice.
All of the neighbors, and Mr. Chiswick can come up.
We have only 2 neighbors here.
There's 3. There's one on this side, there's one on this side, and then there's a house in the back.
I'd like to also mention that there's very limited lawn area currently because the house is positioned so far back. So if the pool house were located here, you're really restricting the lawn. There would be no lawn available at all. And that's one of the, even though it's not shown as proposed improvements, that's one of the key features of this plan.
What's the size of the pool house?
576 square feet.
That is necessary, you think?
That's per code.
It complies with the ordinance.
Mr. Feskin?
Thank you.
I apologize for not memorizing the previous presentation, but when you looked at reducing the roof line height to essentially a flat roof, it is not in keeping with consistency of the existing house. Was there a thought to go with the 18 feet for secondary structures? As I know the garage is permitted, but here, I mean, personally, I look at this and saying, while you are designing to be in compliance, that's a perfect example of why a roof variance would be argued for.
I think we were just being responsive to the board's comments with regard to the height. But having said that, if there was a condition of approval that we have a gable and that it be within the 18-foot maximum, subject to the approval of the board, I think we'd be very much happy with that, and that's why we proposed that initially.
So just for clarity, right now you're designing within the 15-foot
Correct.
technical ordinance?
Yep.
Okay. And what would the run be for you to meet that 18-foot requirement, that extra 3 feet?
I'd have to draw it out. I'm not exactly sure.
Ballpark, would it be much more in line with a proper roof pitch?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Actually, I'm just thinking about it. I just did the math in my head. It would be like a 3/12. So it won't be super steep, but
But it wouldn't be a flat roof?
wouldn't be a flat roof. Yeah.
I know we'll be hearing from the landscape architect
Yes.
momentarily, but since you talked about the change from even the drawing that we've been looking at in regard to the trees to be removed, not 8 but 6, partly because 2 have already been removed. You mentioned, if I understand correctly, and this is the clarification I'm asking for, that the 2 that were removed, I think you said one was near the dry wells, that would be the 18-inch hemlock,
Yes.
and the other is by the stair
You
closer
know
to
what,
the house?
I think let's have the landscape architect testify.
And I
to
will
that.
ask the
Yeah,
same
just
question of
to
him
make
in a
sure
moment,
that
please,
everything is
if I
correct.
might. From a civil engineering point of view, on the dry wells, was the 18-inch hemlock removed to create more lawn space or because of interference where the dry wells are being
You know,
located?
I'm going to leave that up to the landscape architect. I believe that was removed before the Chiswicks moved in, but I'll let them
Got
confirm.
it. Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So just to follow up on Mr. Malay's question, if the pool house were moved and something that Ms. Alls said, let's say if I'm looking at the plan, to the left of where the pool is, somewhere in there, that would still meet your side yard setbacks where you would not have any issue with the neighbors. There's 95 feet from the edge of the pool to the property line. Is that correct?
If it was located where the drywalls are, it would meet.
Well, you know, somewhere in that general vicinity, there's at least 95 feet. Is that
It would
correct?
meet the setback requirement.
Yes,
Thanks.
but there's a house right behind it. Like, can you point to where the yellow house is behind? Yes, so it's
And it would
even
still
closer to the property line.
meet the rear yard setback as well, likely? I mean,
It
we're
would, but it would
talking
be a
about,
closer visual impact to that house than if it's tucked over in the corner.
but it's still would meet this rear
It-
yard
Yes, it
setback.
would,
I think
but
that's
it would
the-
impact the neighbors greater than what this would.
But theoretically, you could build a house all the way back to this the setback and
Right.
still have the same impact.
Right, but that's going to obviously impact your neighbors greater than lawn space.
Just a quick question about the water drainage from the, I guess would be the south side to the north side. You're regrading where this new cinder block, where the retaining wall is going to be, correct? There's no drainage catch at all? I mean, any water catch there at all?
For the lawn, there will be some interception of sheet.
No, go back further, back to the shaded area?
Yeah,
Is that being leveled off inside that?
it is. That's the
So-
purpose of that wall.
Yeah, so there's,
Not on the left side though, right?
right, so that's the area I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's no drainage proposals in this area at all. Where does that water run off to?
It all runs from south to north. That's not being changed.
They're not touching the slope in that area.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Any questions from the public? Seeing none?
The landscape architect?
Great.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So Andy, I think this will be A2. One more color.
I believe that's correct.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I know. Hopefully we're recycling. These are recycling things.
So again, I believe that Ms. Friesma has been sworn and qualified as an expert as testified at the last hearing.
Yes, she was. She remains under oath. And just to confirm, yes, this updated to plans is A2.
Perfect, thanks. Since the last hearing, did you have an opportunity to confer with John Linson? And if so, are the revised plans reflective of your conversations with him?
Yes. I got in touch with him on a day he was in Summit, sent him the revised plans.
Miss, can you use the microphone?
Oh,
Right here.
oh, sorry. Yes, is it better? No? I spoke with I actually emailed back and forth with Mr. Linson probably 2.5 weeks ago regarding tree removal, confirmation, tree replacement. He didn't give us the quantity that we needed to replace, but he knew what we were taking down, what was storm damage. He's been out to the site over the past couple of years and gave us the approval for 7 to 8 foot evergreens. I had given him a handful of different species depending on, what the client chooses. We actually counted out the 25. He didn't say that that was more or less than what we needed, but he actually just ended it with, the way I think. So we think that that's the way he thinks. So if anything, it would probably end up being more just for our client's privacy.
And his review did approve this plan?
Yeah, and then he wrote the revised staff comments that said Cording Landscape Design has my approval for the replacement trees, quantity and size.
Okay, and then, so you prepared Exhibit A2 to help you in your testimony tonight. And can you just explain to the board why we have a new exhibit?
That was 100% my fault. We were working off an old survey, and we've been working for the Chiswick since after they moved in, so that's probably 2020, 2019-ish. Those trees actually weren't there then, so it was just part of our removals plan that they were on the survey, so we marked them off, but those haven't been there since we've been on the property. So I apologize for that. The 2 hemlocks that are on the...
So can you just point
Oh.
to the two that are not?
They have the big red circles around them, so those haven't been in existence in quite some time. And then there are 2 kind of mangy hemlocks on the left side of the garage, on the left side of the property there. They're not in great health. They haven't been since the beginning, and we'll need that as our construction access so that we don't disturb anything additional along the right property line. The back left corner has a large oak, but that has storm damage, and the main leader was ripped out of it a couple years ago. And then by the pool, there are 2 oaks that don't look great. There's a lot of dieback. We just haven't done any tree work, removal, cleanup to them yet, knowing the project was on the horizon. And 1 other hemlock that has woolly adelgid, the same disease that affects every hemlock.
Okay, so technically then you're only removing 6 trees.
Correct.
This plan shows you're providing 25. It could be more, but that is an additional 19 trees over what is existing.
Yes.
And that doesn't include all of the other landscaping that hasn't been
Yeah,
finalized
that's
yet.
just screening. Yep.
And can you just explain to the board the screening and what effect it could have on stormwater and stabilization of slopes and things like that?
Of course. So any tree, lawn, shrub, anything will absorb rainwater and will stabilize the slope with their root systems. So in this plan, we actually shifted the walls so that we didn't have the 10-foot to 12-foot wall that we had on the original plan to remove that 1 variance. So in doing that, we shifted the slope around and made 1 single wall. So the trees will actually block that wall at planting faster than what we would have had on the original plan, which was a 10-foot minimum wall to hold back that grade. So you'll actually get more screening faster. The AC unit, the back of the house, the retaining walls from any of the other adjacent properties, just because they're actually level. They're more at that like existing grade the way we taper into their properties.
And how big will these trees get? And will they grow together to create basically a consistent screen?
Yeah, they'll make an entire wall. The arborvitae grow probably 2-3 foot a year minimum. And we were going to go in at 7 to 8 as per Mr. Linson, and I think they double like every 3 years or so. So they'll make an entire wall where you would never know that you had a neighbor.
And what's the maximum height, or is it just grows forever?
60, 80 feet.
Okay. And again, the retaining wall has been reduced. Does this help stabilize the slopes by adding
It does.
landscaping?
And we'll have drainage behind the walls as well. There'll be clean gravel, pipes behind that, so we'll collect any I guess it's sort of runoff, but any, absorptive water so that there's no hydrostatic pressure against the wall to keep the retaining walls as planned, as built, and that would all get captured back into the drainage system as well. So, in any planting we do, any of the green hatch there, that'll be a ground cover or perennials or that sort of thing, so that you don't have the runoff. That'll slow anything before it hits a neighboring property.
And that'll improve the condition because existing trees on the site are pretty tall, right? There's not really like anything.
There's a lot of moss in that corner, yeah.
So,
not a lot
so
of
this
sunlight.
will definitely block the view better than what is existing for
Definitely,
the other neighbors.
absolutely, yeah.
And by pushing the pool house up, you're saving an existing tree
Mm-hmm.
in the rear that was originally scheduled to be removed.
Yes.
And the AC unit in the rear of the, yes, that's going to be screened. Nobody's going to see that, right?
Yeah, they'll never know that's there, yeah.
And what about the outdoor lighting that's proposed as part of this application?
Right now, we just show 3 different post lights, just for safety at that point, but I'm sure when we get into the details of it, there'll be path lights and that sort of thing, more for safety and ambiance, nothing that's going to be above and beyond what the regulation is.
And then again, can you explain how the landscape plan is designed to promote the purposes of the steep slope ordinance?
Well, obviously, we don't want to disturb the steep slope. That wasn't our intent. What we're trying to do is make this usable for 3 young boys and the family. And if you've been to the site before we had the snowstorm, that everything pitched steeply down into this back right corner. So there's that concrete shed footing foundation situation that's back there, but you're basically, if you're kicking a soccer ball, you're chasing it down to that corner, and you kind of lose eyesight of anything that happens over there. Bless you. So this actually gives more recreational lawn while also stabilizing at the same time. Because right now, like you said, there's no trees, there's no screening, there's just a chain link fence that exists. So really anything we do is an improvement.
And I think it was testified at the last hearing, but you are removing the shed and that wall that's kind of
Yeah.
around that tree that's in
Yeah,
that
that's down
back
here,
corner.
yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Board experts, what do you have?
Could you talk about the access to the area behind the pool house? It shows on the plan that you have lawn area there, but there's also, the only access that I can see to it has like a ground cover. So,
And that's just kind of for rendering purposes, just so it gave a little interest.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be lawn, ground cover, that sort of thing. And it's not where we've had houses in this town where we have to not, where we don't have to drag like a lawnmower down the steps just to get to some unreachable area. Or it may end up just being like weed whacked just to keep it maintained.
okay, all right. I think that was the only question I had. Thank you.
Just a few questions. Regarding the planting, you show that this is a schematic plan, obviously subject to verification with the forester. Can you help the board with an idea of what your plant palettes might be as far as natives? You heard that conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can identify some of the plants or what you're thinking as far as the
Yeah, of
palette
course,
plans are.
for the main intent here is screening. So whether that's arborvitae, juniper, hemlock that'll then be treated and maintained, Norway spruce, that sort of thing. And then around the pool, we're going to go into more flowering things. So we'll want, Jarrett Kess had said earlier about the summer flowering sweet shrub and that sort of thing, and hydrangea. We want flowering things that will attract butterflies and no bees, I promise, and hummingbirds and that sort of thing while you're at the pool, since you're there kind of April through October maybe. So we're going to, narrow in on those. So you'll probably get a couple red buds, that sort of thing, the New Jersey tree, tree of New Jersey.
But an effort will be made to
Oh,
pick out
absolutely, yeah.
native plants.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Were you involved in the placement of the pool and the pool house
Yeah.
at all, from a design perspective? What was your rationale for where you're putting it?
Well, we were all involved in the first plan, and then we understood that we were kind of biting off more than we should have. So I was kind of the one that fought to eliminate the walkout behind the pool, save that tree, reduce the disturbance back there, and shift everything forward. At that point, we had more non-steep slope space to work with as you got closer to this part of the house. This really stayed the same, this steep slope area, because we want to make a level area. You don't want to run off outside the pool and hit another steep slope or kick a ball and still be chasing it after going through this process in construction. So and then we reduced the patio area, which also reduced the steep slope disturbance, so it kind of gave us a little bit of everything that the board had asked for the first time.
And then the fencing for the pool area?
Yeah, up there on top of that wall will just be like a guard situation, 3-4 feet, to catch a ball, a child, that sort of thing. But everything else will be pool compliant, that'll hit property line to property line.
So you're around the perimeter?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Board members, what questions do you have for this witness?
I just have one. The house in the rear of the property that's the closest to the property line, where is it on your diagram?
Over here. There's actually, the garage is here, and then the house is right next to it. It's definitely a non-conforming setup. They've been,
So the structure that you see from the property is the garage?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, the driveway comes all the way back from
Yeah, I
What
saw
is that,
something
Essex?
back,
Yeah.
back, I was there before the snow, but.
Yeah.
A couple, Chairman. If my calculations are correct, all the patios together are 5,100 square feet. Do you recall that off the top of your
I don't know
head?
that offhand. I apologize. That's on my other plan.
Okay.
Is that,
Well, that's my question. Does that number include the old patio
oh, if it's
and the new
patio total,
patio?
yeah, then that'll be all of it.
Is there,
Sorry.
and maybe this isn't your purview, maybe I should have asked the architect, I should have looked at the landscaping plan first before the architect left. But to me, that's a lot of coverage, 5,100 square feet for patio. I know it's within zoning, I know it's allowed, it's a lot. I mean, I don't think that, the footprint of the house, I think, is 3,000 square feet, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe a little bit bigger?
Yeah, we were just making something that they were going to be the house with 3 boys that was going to have friends.
I have 5
And-
kids, so I know what you're
Then
talking
you know
about.
better than
but
I do,
I
so,
don't have 4,000 square foot, 5,000 square foot patio. But anyway,
Now you have a place to go.
my question
so, yeah.
is, when you said you were involved in the design of the pool and the pool house, and you fought to move everything forward, if things were made on a little bit of a smaller scale,
We actually did dial everything back because we were trying to fit in a couple different elements that, again, made it the place to be. That if it was raining, you could go in the pool
And
house.
if I could
excuse
just
me.
ask, there's only a small portion of the patio that's in the steep slope area, right?
Oh, yeah, that's just that back corner, yeah. Yeah, everything else is,
Is-
right, but kind of what I'm alluding to is if things were stepped back even a little more, let's say we just made the pool 40 by 15. That gave you,
that's not, you usually do a different ratio for the pool.
whatever, I'm not a pool guy, I'm just throwing numbers out. But then you could use my rationale, then we can move the pool house maybe 5 feet closer to the house for better flow, access. The patio area, the new patio area with the fireplace would move forward, and then you could maybe disturb less steep slope, still have an effective area to
To be honest, we
enjoy.
would probably still disturb the same because you wouldn't want to move the patio in and then have like just a steep drop off behind it.
Right,
But
I mean,
there-
mo-
there already
most
is a
of-
steep
Most
drop
of the
No,
disturbance
that's
of
what
the
the wall is
steep,
preventing.
right, most of the disturbance of the steep slope is going to remain lawn area.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you'd get more lawn area, right?
Yeah,
Make
that's
the
what that
patio smaller, you
creates.
gain more lawn area. So you still disturb it, but it's less of a structure toward the rear of the property and.
Right, but the structure and
be.
the patio are a very small portion of what the disturbance
Disturbances,
is.
yeah.
It's still steep slope, whether it's 100 square feet or 1,500 square feet.
But again, we would still want to make that level just for safety at that point because then you're not going to have the retaining walls.
Okay, I didn't see it that way. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question with regards to the retaining wall? The rationale for the jog beyond the fireplace versus, say, that second jog just having a straight shot?
That's the existing grade. So we don't hit the 10-foot max, 10-foot 1 inch.
So you pushed it, you kept it back there to keep below the 10-foot
So
threshold?
we didn't trip that variance, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to maintain the open sight line out into the lawn, so we left the fireplace back there and then just kind of, like you said, zigged and zagged around it.
How much, if ballpark, would you think if you were to do that one straight shot, or two, right? Would you save 500 square feet of disturbance?
Possibly, but then it's not even the disturbance, it's the wall height.
No, I get that.
And
Oh.
and that was, I think, some of the comments at the last hearing, that everybody, made comments that they asked if that could be reduced.
Yeah, the wall height and the building height both were, yeah.
Right, I'm just looking at
I
the
know.
unintended
I know.
consequences where we try to fix one thing and create another issue. So I'm making sure that everybody looks at it from, this is here for a reason because this is what you asked for. At the end of the day,
It's actually going to
It's
be less
actually
than the
increasing our
500
disturbance.
because even if we ran it straight, you would still, and that's the thing, there's still, like, you can see the dotted line behind it, that's still like the overlap to
I get that.
backfill the wall and the construction access, so there's still like the track marks and that sort of thing to compact and everything.
So does conformance make it a worse outcome in your opinion?
that's where I'm looking. Same thing with the roof. I'm looking at it as saying, should we be considering something else? And not to belabor it, but yes, I mean, again, the law of unintended consequences. Trying to fix one thing, we create another issue.
No, and that's why Zach had agreed that if there was a way to write in the extra 3 feet for the roof, we would all agree to that, that it would be more similar to the house roof line to have a little bit more consistency.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Yes,
All
because
right,
that's,
you guys.
because
Save
the
it
house
for
was,
Yes,
executive
it would be
session.
less.
yes.
Yeah, there was a window and that
Let's
was
get through
questioned.
this testimony.
The pitch was
Questions,
questioned.
questions only. Mr. Bell?
I have two thoughts which I'll phrase as questions. One very positive and one maybe a suggestion as a question. The positive one is that the pool house is in the proper position because of where the sun is, and that hasn't been mentioned yet. You know, that was sunlight and daylight and south-facing patios and lawns a
Absolutely.
factor?
That's actually the first thing that we
Yeah.
lay out, that you're not
No one
laying.
has said that, so thank you for doing it.
I apologize that I missed that.
No, no,
That
it's
actually
not a
wasn't
criticism.
even like
It's,
mentioned
it's pretty
that.
obvious.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why we would assume that this would be where the lounge chairs would be, that that's going to be laying in the south facing. Yeah, no, that's the first southwest.
And
That's
the
first
second
thing.
one, I'll start with, do you think that it would have been useful to have a site plan that showed the adjacent properties that might be visually impacted by the position of the pool house, as your counsel has suggested? Not that she suggested having a plan,
Yeah.
but, you know, a house has been referred to that's off the edge of the drawing.
Once
How
we-
easy would it have been to
Oh,
extend
we
this?
actually had it prepared and then realized that we didn't have any negative comments from all the neighbors. So if they had had an issue, I'm sure they would have been here.
You know, the issue of context comes up often in urban
Oh, absolutely.
situations. Seldom or not
You can ask my
adequately,
coworker.
Until someone
I'm
complains,
the
as
first
you're
one
saying.
to show
Right.
existing, because the first thing the client says is, all right, show me what's here right now. And that's the first thing they want to
Because when you
see.
look at Google Map, it doesn't look like that house is close at all. The garage is.
The garage is,
But
and the house is
hidden by
just.
the garage.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving the pool house, not that I'm suggesting to do it, to the south, which doesn't make sense from sunlight point of
Sunlight,
view,
yep.
would have absolutely no visual impact on the adjacent property.
None.
Except for the back of the garage.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Rhetorical. Sorry.
Any other questions?
I have one. On your plan last time, which was dated September 11th, you had like the layout for the patio, the seating area, the outdoor kitchen, the dining table. Is that the same?
No, that's why we removed it. It's all up for grabs at this point. We were showing that as graphics, not as furniture that was shown.
Well, and again, the
chosen.
patio was reduced,
And the
right?
patio was reduced.
So,
but-
so what is it, what is it going to fit now?
We don't have any idea. We haven't picked furniture, layout, quantity, seating, nothing. So we kind of put the cart before the horse with that when people were asking seats, tables, kitchens.
It's
So-
more informational. I mean, again, those are the types of decisions that are
It
made
was more
once
schematic, just to show
construction
what
is
could have
done.
been.
Somebody like me, I see like how big the patio is visually when I see a seating area, outdoor kitchen, and a dining table. Is that same thing going to fit on this other
You're gonna fit
patio? It's
something
still going to have an
similar.
outdoor kitchen?
But it's
and
less.
a
It-
seating-
No, the patio is definitely less, over 500 square feet less. But you're still going to want to put 3 couches, 3 sofas, love seats, that sort of thing around the fireplace.
Some kind of a seating area.
Yeah.
and-
Some
And
of
an
that-
outdoor kitchen?
That we have no idea about. That might be off the table at this point. We're not sure. Thank you.
Any questions from the public for this witness? Seeing none? Ms. Ellis, do you want to summarize? or-
Yes.
Before we do that, I just had a
Yeah,
question
sure.
about
Mr. Mull.
conditions.
Mhm.
Do we are we retaining stormwater management jurisdiction for 2 years or some period beyond this application, given the amount of steep slope disturbance here?
We do. Sounds like that's a
That-
request. Any objection?
No objection.
Okay. So, yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hillary, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so the applicant, in direct response to the board's comments, revised the plans to eliminate 2 of the 3 previously requested variances. As revised, the only variance requested tonight is for steep slope disturbance, which was reduced by 900 square feet. This application is a textbook C1 variance. The lawfully existing residence is 83.4 feet from the front property line, where only 35 feet is required. The excessive front yard setback is 48.4 feet beyond what the ordinance requires and directly constrains the applicant's ability to make improvements that would otherwise be permitted under zoning regulations. If not for this unusually deep front yard condition, the proposed improvements would be located outside of the steep slope area and no variance relief would be necessary. In addition, the property is uniquely burdened by exceptional topographic conditions, specifically the steep slopes at the rear of the lot line, or at the rear of the lot. Absent this distinctive physical feature, the applicant could proceed with the proposed improvements without any need for variance relief. A C1 variance is expressly intended for circumstances such as these, where exceptional topographic conditions or physical features uniquely affecting a property or lawfully existing structures result in practical difficulties or undue hardship in developing the property as otherwise permitted. Granting relief under these circumstances is entirely consistent with both statutory framework and the established zoning principles. The proposal also meets statutory criteria for a C2 variance, since the proposal advances the purposes of zoning. The proposal provides for adequate light, air, and open space, as the improvements remain well separated from neighboring properties. It supports the conservation of environmental resources through engineered stormwater controls, slope stabilization, and enhanced landscaping. It encourages the appropriate use and development of land in a manner consistent with the character of the neighborhood, and the improvements in landscaping are aesthetically pleasing, which create a desirable visual environment. The demonstrated positive criteria for both a C1 and C2 variance is coupled with the fact that the improvements are proposed in this location in order for them to be oriented away from adjoining residences. The perimeter evergreen plantings will be a significant aesthetic and screening improvement over existing conditions, which will buffer the adjoining properties all year long, while also acting as natural stormwater management. Appropriate engineered stormwater management measures and retaining walls are proposed to ensure slope stability, prevent erosion, and capture runoff that would otherwise travel to downhill neighbors. No neighboring property owners appeared in opposition or raised any concerns at any of the meetings before the board. And the applicant's civil engineer provided unrebutted expert testimony confirming compliance with the substantive standards of the steep slope ordinance, which regulates and does not prohibit disturbance within the steep slope areas. Taken together, these factors establish that the benefits of the deviation outweigh any perceived detriments, and granting the requested variances will not result in any substantial detriment to the public good, nor will it impair the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance or master plan. For all of these reasons, the applicant respectfully requests that the board grant the variance for steep slope disturbance.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none. All right, Mr. Ball, what do we have?
3 conditions. First is compliance with the conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second, that the applicant shall record a deed restriction to confirm that the accessory pool house shall not be used as a dwelling unit. And third, that the board shall maintain stormwater jurisdiction for a period of 2 years after completion of the improvements. And obviously, we only have a single steep slope variance. 4 votes are required to approve.
Excellent. And with that, let's begin our executive session.
I'll start.
All right. Mr.
I
Fessler.
like the rule of the law of unintended consequences. I mean, they took everything that you guys, and I wasn't part of the original procession, but a lot of changes were happening. We're talking about one variance. I really personally, the only issue I see here is the roof of the pool house, to me, is idiotic. It doesn't fit the design standard. I think we should be giving them leeway to design something that's more appropriate with the neighborhood. Otherwise, I see no issues with this. It's screened, it's hidden, it's way far back. Yes, I think there's a hardship with the steep slope being very specific where it is in the house. You can't move the house. So the reality is you need a backyard to be able to plan. And, again, I think the dumbest thing here is the fact that they're designing something to be in compliance when we should be looking at giving them a proper roof line.
I'll just jump in here and say that something that wasn't mentioned is that this lot is oversized. Usually we're hearing about lots that are undersized. This lot is almost twice the size of what's required for an R25 zone. So for me, the front yard being 40 feet back it's just not compelling, because this is a very large lot. There's a huge backyard to work with or without this. If you just carve the steep slopes out, it's still a big backyard. So that being said, disregarding the front yard, as part of one of the reasons, I do think that the location is probably the best location for it from a functionality of a backyard. You know, would I like to see that the pool house is not in a steep slope? I would, but then I recognize that would diminish the backyard and the functionality. It would eat away from the backyard. So I you know, and I appreciate the moving it 8 feet. I can agree to that. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Feskins about us requiring the roof. We didn't require the roof to be 15 feet. They could have come in with an 18-foot and presented it, but I would be fine if we made that a condition that their roof could be, their building height could be up to 18 feet for the accessory structure, which our code, I think, does allow for. Is that
So
correct?
why don't we do that? Why don't we add that?
But I don't think it
there's
was.
a clarification where
Yeah.
it's got to match the roof
It's a certain
line.
pitch, yes.
And I think that's where the variance may be required.
That's where I would call the variance, exactly.
Right, so, but we could give them, we could say up to, I agree, the
Just
flat
it's not
roof looks a
flat,
little
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And also from look, if you get 2 feet of snow on an almost flat roof, that's gonna be a problem on your pool house. So functionally, on any roof line, right, in this kind of weather that we've had, I think it would be better if other people, you know, that we added that as a possibility.
So just for clarification, it would be to permit up to 18 feet with a variance that it doesn't meet the pitch requirement under the code.
Yeah, so it would be a accessory building height variance, no more than 18 feet, because, yes, the variance is triggered anytime between 15 and 18 where it's not a match.
Or, I mean, I don't know, do you need to say that, and I'm asking, I don't know, the room height, the ceiling height is the same, and then that you're not, you know, keeping a flat roof and making it, you know, vaulted ceilings or something, because that's not the intent. The intent is to give a little bit of slope to the roof, right? Is that just to make sure that it's to accommodate a roof with some more slope? Yeah.
I would be completely supportive of that, because that is the intent
Right.
from an aesthetic, not a vaulted ceiling. So
Right.
I'm good with that, too. Depending on the
So
board, of course.
I'm hearing nobody else objecting to that change. I know the applicants have indicated that they would be more than happy to incorporate that change, so.
But that is also a variance, correct?
Yes,
So,
we
okay.
would treat it as a variance, and the
Perfect.
board would be, you know, granting that variance for the roof height.
But doesn't meet the exception, which is.
Right.
Exception is the.
Correct.
is the-
Yes.
So then, obviously, as a condition, we'll ask that the applicants revise their plans to reflect that, you know, change in the roof height to be pitched no more than 18 feet in height.
Perfect.
Who else?
That would be the peak would be no more than. 8.
Right.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
The ridge.
So I'm looking at this case fairly narrowly, and I look at the steep slope as the primary driver here. You know, the siting of the property, 80 feet from the property line, I don't think that's remarkable relative to the neighborhood. Steep slope does present a topographical hardship, and so I think the applicants have met their burden here in demonstrating that. I think what they've proposed, you know, as, forgetting your name, sir, and I apologize for that. What they propose in terms of the stormwater management, I think is a material improvement over what currently exists. So I think the variance is supported, so I will support this application.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Anyone else? No?
I can support it. For the, you know, they did make the improvements, they did move the pool house in. I do like I did not like the flat roof, you know, it looked bad even just in the diagrams. So I think it's a happy agreement. So, it's what.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Motion to approve.
Second?
Ms. Sands, can you call the roll, please?
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
No.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Chairman Liketz?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. So no resolutions, but minutes?
Yes, we have the minutes from October 20th, 2025. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Malay, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Chifo, Mr. Chanchuli, and Chairman Liketz. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, thanks, crew.
Motion to adjourn?
Just,
Oh, sorry.
give me 2 minutes. Can we wait till the audience leaves?
Sure.
Sorry, I know guys want to get out of here, but I'll make this real quick.
If you want to talk about Olympic hockey, you can stay here for longer than 2 minutes.
So I guess that's what you want to watch. I don't know if you guys have been seeing what's going on at the state level with this ADUs and the proposal for all that. So my question is, and maybe I'm being too far ahead of the game, but in a scenario like this, if that law changes where ADUs are allowed, would we be able to ask for deed restrictions, or is that off the table? More importantly, part of that new law is the, I don't know how to say this without saying it, houses of worship will have greater ability to do what they want to with their property. How would that, and maybe this is not the, probably don't have an answer, but how would that affect us moving forward?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to guess with it, you know, unless we have an approved law in
Correct,
front of
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't want to just
So
guess
really, my
as to
question is,
what
are you guys, are we watching that to see how it will affect?
Yeah, of course.
Us, this board specifically?
If there's any laws that are adopted that would impact, you know, those conditions, obviously, we would need to take those into account. But, you know, guessing as
Yeah,
to
oh, no, yeah.
draft legislation is
Yep. No, I
usually
get
just
it.
a waste of time.
No, I get it. I didn't expect an answer. I just wanted to know if we're like watching what's going on out there. And maybe it's just me, but I'm kind of getting the impression that zoning boards won't exist.
If I can just comment, Mr. Chairman, we would also be advising the planning board as well, because the planning board makes recommendations on adjustments to ordinances and things of that nature. Typically, when you get these sort of changes, you then think of, okay, how can we still control certain aspects of that? And then we try to advise around that criteria as best we can.
Yep.
But of course, as you're saying, it sounds like things are being taken out of the municipality's hands more and more these days. But I'll stop there.
That's it. I'm sorry to hold you up. Just curious.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All right. Thanks, team.
I'm sorry, who seconded?